Hey,
Can you hear me?
yup, we are back.
Alrighty.
Episode 11.
Here we go. Okay, maybe not. All right.
All the notifications are popping up now on the phone.
Lim.
All the notifications are popping up on the phone. Yeah, Sucio Sportz with Keyz and Jermaine. Episode 11 is live now. We got a little bit to talk about. Just a little bit, not a whole lot. Some pretty cool stuff. But let's see if everything is the stars have all aligned.
I'm vanilla, baby. I'll choke you, but I ain't no killer, baby. She 28, telling me I'm still a baby. I get love in Detroit like Skilla, baby. And the thing about your boy is I don't like no whips and chains, and you can't tie me down. But you can whip your lovin' on me.
You hear it?
That's right, whip your lovin' on me.
Hey.
Young Jackaka, Rico like Suave, young Enrique, speaking at AKA. She's an alpha, but not around your boy. She get quiet around your boy. Hold on, don't know what you heard or what you thought about your boy, but they lied about your boy. Going dumb and it's something idiotic about your boy. She wearing cheetah print. That's how bad you won't be spotted around your boy. I don't like no whips and chains, and you can't tie me down.
Did you hear it? I think he's having a technical difficulty because I don't think he can hear me. Yeah, but yeah, you on. I see you. I don't hear you. We having a little technical difficulty, ladies and gentlemen. We'll get it figured out eventually. But episode 11 is off to a roaring start. It's always something, man. But this past week was crazy, and it got crazier within the last 48 or so hours. We've had all kinds of news drop. Just within the last couple hours or so before we went live, there was a news report hit that possibly Bill Belichick and the Patriots are parting ways after this season. Now, I'll give credit where credit is due. The story was put out there by The Score. The Score seems to be a pretty reputable sports site. They're the company verified gold check on Twitter, so they must be something. They have over 622,000 followers. Score's been around for a while. I'm not sure what other what other iterations they may have been around in, but I know I've seen them in their website for a long time. But that was just kind of crazy just to see that report. Now, it has not been substantiated or cross-referenced or put out there by any of the typical NFL insider luminaries, Adam Schefter, or even Adrian Wojnarowski, who typically will break something like this if it's big enough. Nothing from Ian Rappaport. Nobody at NFL Network has this. Not even I haven't seen like a local Boston area paper even say that they had this information. So we're talking about it. We're just bringing it to the forefront, saying that there was a report. Whether it's to be believed or not is here nor there, but it's something to monitor. One could definitely see the Patriots and Bill Belichick parting ways after this season, considering what that team is looking like as of right now. Especially when you look at the NFL standings, when you look at the playoffs, and the Patriots are so far out of it, it doesn't even make sense to mention them in it. They're at the bottom. They're worse than the Jets, who just beat the brakes off the Texans this past weekend. The Patriots are 3-10 and easily the worst team in the AFC. I'm sorry, by 2 games. They're tied with the Cardinals for the second to worst record in the league, and of course, the number 1 overall pick would have belonged to the Panthers, but they traded that away to the Bears. So the Bears have the first overall pick, courtesy of the Panthers, and they're 1-12 record. But just something to monitor going into the offseason and whatnot, seeing what could potentially happen. But looking at the playoff picture, starting with that AFC where the Patriots are dwelling solely by themselves at the bottom, we didn't really have a whole lot of change in the playoff picture. The only thing that got solidified to me this past week in the AFC playoff picture was that the Ravens are the top seed. Outside of that, there was nothing really that stuck out that said, hey, this was, going to shake up the playoff picture or anything like that. I mean, you could say the Dolphins losing the way they did on Monday night to the Giants. You could say Kansas City shooting themselves in the foot, literally. That was, terrible. I mean, just all the whining and crying and whatnot carrying on from Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, so on and so forth, when Kadarius Toney could have just done what he's learned to do since he was a kid, is line up on side. Number 1. Number 2, check with the ref when you're lining up to make sure you're lining up on side. So I don't really feel sorry for him in that situation. Does it suck? Yes. But, I mean, it is what it is. What can you do? You can't cry over spilled milk. Plus, they had other opportunities in that game to put that game away, and they just didn't put that game away. So there's only so much you can blame on the refs themselves. And I believe it was Dan Orlovsky who actually put out a comparison of the amount of times that Kadarius Toney actually lined up offsides in that same exact game. So that to me showed that it was done before. Now it is one of those new rules where they say it's like a point of emphasis, where they talk about there's different rules that they're going to look at, enforce, so on and so forth that year. One of those rules is the offensive offsides. With that particular call, I believe it's the 11th time this year that there's been an offensive offsides call, right? There's the previous 2 seasons, there were 3. Now, when a call is made 3 times in 2 seasons, and then all of a sudden it's made 11 times within the first 12 games of the following season, that shows you that yes, this is a point of emphasis. Now, there is the friendly, gesture between the players lining up on the outside and the refs, line up, make sure they're on side, whatever, so on and so forth. They're supposed to check, and the ref will tell you, yes, you are, you're good, or no, you need to back it up a little bit. Whatever it is. When you go back and you watch those plays, specifically that Dan Orlovsky tweet, he made sure to show that he did not check with the ref before those plays to make sure that he was on side correctly. So I'm just wondering, why wouldn't you check? Like, that's your job. You're supposed to, when you're lining up out wide, if you look at any play, you can look at high school play, college, NFL, everyone. They all do it. They line up. You look to the ref at the nearest sideline. You point at him, make sure you're good. He'll tell you, hey, you're good, you're good. And then you'll go. I mean, you're good. They'll let you know, hey, you're good. Or he may say, hey, back it up a little bit, good buddy. You look a little bit tight, but they'll direct you in the right direction if you ask. If you go back and look at those replays, Kadarius Toney never did that. The refs aren't just going to voluntarily tell you this either. You have to ask. And it's like they say, a closed mouth don't get fed. But I mean, that was this week's controversial to do in the NFL was the offsides play that took away the go-ahead touchdown on a great.
I'm shocked Tony is still on the team.
Great. Huh? What'd you say? It's just crazy,
I'm shocked Kadarius Toney is still on the team.
Oh, he's going to be on the team. Like they're not going to just like cut him. Yeah, I hear you. I think you must be buffering coming in late, but I see him. He's going to be on the team. I mean, they're not going to just cut him. It was a boneheaded play, yes, but like Orlovsky's video showed, he lined up like that several times throughout that exact same game, and there was no penalty called. I believe I even saw a still shot of Jalen Waddle from last night's game where he lined up offsides, and there was no penalty called. But a lot of the times the refs may glance at it, and they may be looking down the line of scrimmage and overlooking the wide receiver. So a lot of times they may not call it. And again, like I was saying a little while ago, it's one of those point of emphasis rules that they're obviously enforcing because of the amount of times that they've called it this year, 11 compared to 3 the previous 2 seasons. So it's just one of those things where it is what it is. The number of injuries keeps piling up as we learned today that Justin Herbert is going to be out for the season with thumb surgery. CJ Stroud for the Texans is in concussion protocol. The Ravens brought a guy from the Patriots practice squad, Lamar's old Louisville college backup, in to be his backup. Wondering who else is hurt. Trevor Lawrence is still probably
he should. You know what's crazy? Trevor. Malik Cunningham.
Yeah, Malik Cunningham coming in for the Ravens is going to be nice, but the Trevor Lawrence thing, I'm wondering how well his ankle is.
I was saying Malik.
I think you having a buffer because, like, you coming in, but it's sounding weird, like when you come in, like it's slow or something. But the Steelers, they're having their issues with their injuries at quarterback. Let's see. Because I want to say Kenny Pickett he's going to be out. So just about everybody in the AFC has a quarterback issue. Has or had. In the case of the Colts, their rookie, he's out for the season. Kenny Pickett is out. Deshaun Watson is out. Trevor Lawrence has an injury. Pat Mahomes is okay. Tua is okay. And Lamar is okay. So your top 3 seeds seem to be okay, but they're also specifically Tua, guys who've had an injury history. Lamar and Patrick Mahomes have been relatively healthy for their careers. But everybody else, until you get down to like the Broncos, which Russell Wilson hasn't had any issues this season. Then the Bengals, of course, with Joe Burrow being out. And Josh Allen. There's only because the 6 through 11 in the AFC is all 7 and 6, and there's all these tiebreakers, and there's like 2 pages worth of notes with all the tiebreakers between all those teams. But what we're looking at is just a lot going on in the AFC playoff picture. And to me, one of the more shocking things is the Cleveland Browns being at 8-5. With Deshaun Watson earlier being banged up, now out for the season, and then he wasn't even playing up to par. He was playing okay, but not that great earlier on this season. So there's just a lot to digest there when you're looking at that playoff picture and trying to see like what's going to go on, or what are you going to do, or how's it going to turn out, or what have you. Trying to see like I'm just wondering what's going to happen when we get to the playoffs. Who's still going to be standing? Because that's one of the biggest things that I'm wondering about is how's it going to look when you see all these backup quarterbacks playing? Is that going to change the way you bet or you view these playoff teams? Or is this sample size that these guys giving you, is this going to be enough for you to say, hey, yeah, I'm confident in this team, that I feel as though this team is going to go all the way, or they're going to do something, or be able to give you a good challenge. Basically, it's almost the Florida State principle coming into play here. Whereas they were left off of the college football playoffs simply because their starting quarterback was hurt, and then the backup quarterback got hurt, and the third string guy had to come in. There was that provision, like we talked about last week, where it kind of prevents it can prevent you from getting in if there's a player and or a coach and their availability is in question. Is basically what the rule says, and that's what happened with Florida State. So people were up in arms about that, but that's not the case here in the NFL. NFL, you win, you're in. It doesn't matter what injuries you have. If you manage to limp your way into the playoffs, you're in the playoffs. So that's just going to be an interesting thing to look forward to, because you could have as many as 3 of the 7 playoff teams in the playoffs playing with a backup quarterback. As of right now, it would be the Browns, the Steelers, and the Colts, where their original starter is out for the season. As of right now, the Texans, their quarterback is in concussion protocol. Broncos, he's healthy. Bengals are playing with their backup, and Josh Allen is healthy again. So just looking at that AFC playoff picture, injuries are going to play a huge part. Now, over in the NFC, we had some shifting going on. There was some furniture that was being moved in the NFC as the Eagles took another tumble with another big loss. Cowboys blew the doors off the Eagles, much like the 49ers did last week. And I know a lot of people probably looked at Nick Bosa's comments and were like, we gave them the blueprint. Hopefully they watched the film, kind of arrogantly saying like, we kicked their ass. Can you do it? Laying down the gauntlet to the Cowboys, which, truth be told, like, he has every right, because the 49ers have sunned the Cowboys a lot lately, especially in the playoffs. So you got to kind of give him his due. He made sure that he put a statement out there and laid down the challenge, and the Cowboys said, all right, bet, hold my beer, watch this, and beat the Eagles 33-13 this week. Now, the crazy part about all of this is that the Eagles went from the 1 seed to the 5 seed, because now the Cowboys lead that division because they hold the tiebreaker over the Eagles. The 6 and 7 Bucks are now the 4 seed over the 10 and 3 Eagles. What that loss means right now to the Eagles, if the playoffs were to start right now at this instance, right? We would see the Eagles have to go on the road and play the 6 and 7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How would you like to go from being the 1 seed, getting a bye in the first round, home field advantage throughout the NFC playoffs, all the way down the playoff ladder to the 5 seed. And now you're going on the road to the winner of the AFC basement. The AFC, I can't even call it the South. I'm just going to call it the basement. Because anytime a team is 6-7 and they're tied with 2 other teams in their division, 6-7, and they just happen to have the tiebreaker, which just happens to give them the division lead, which happens to give them that home playoff game in the opening round. That's crazy. But again, in the NFC, that's just the way it is, because you even have a team like the 6-7 Green Bay Packers who own the 7th seed in the playoffs. As of right now, playoff started today, they would be on the road against the Cowboys, and the 3 seed Lions would host the 7-6 Minnesota Vikings. 49ers are now the 1 seed and would have the bye in the first round and home field advantage throughout. Just looking at some of those scores over in the NFC, the other thing that I was looking forward to was that 49ers Seahawks game, which the 49ers end up just dominating it, and Brock Purdy emerged as the newest, hot topic candidate for NFL MVP. I mean, hey, it is what it is. They it was just clicking. And the only thing I can say about watching that game, there was almost nothing that Brock Purdy could do wrong in that game. Purdy was just on a different level in that game. And there was very little to nothing that the Seahawks defense could do with him. It got to the point where DK Metcalf got so frustrated he tried to suplex Fred Warner on the turnover.
That was kind of funny. I think he was trying out for WWE.
Bro, you have no idea. Like, I've heard, I think I've seen it all. The only video I haven't seen is somebody put like a theme song to it. I don't think I've seen that
2 weeks
yet.
in a? I feel like this is 2 weeks in a row that the 49ers are in like scuffles that are like WWE-esque.
Well,
2 weeks in a row.
there was another one. Did they get into it last week with the Eagles?
Yeah, remember that's what happened with Big Dom.
Oh,
on the side
that's right. That's right. With the headline, the
him and Fred
guy.
Warner.
Okay.
Yeah, it was him and Fred Warner because he slammed Devontae Smith.
That's okay. But there was another one. Who did they get into it with earlier this season? And Trent Williams came in like throwing grown men around like toys. It was somebody else they got into it with earlier this year.
Shit, who was it they got into it with?
What up, Sloan? There was somebody else I remember them getting into it with earlier this year, but he was just, I mean, he was throwing people around like it was nothing. But this one was kind of crazy because you can tell it was almost like one of those frustration fouls in basketball.
Yeah.
It was something to me like that. And DK was just pissed off at how the game was going. And yes, he was trying to make a tackle, but no, he did not have to try to German suplex a linebacker.
But also, DK is built like a linebacker, so there's that.
There is that. So it wasn't exactly like, where you see some 5'11", 190-pound wide receiver trying to go at this 250-pound linebacker. Like, I'm not scared of you, but you should.
This man the same size as Fred Warner.
Exactly. They could switch positions and nobody would really know except Fred has dreads and he's light skinned and DK is short hair and he's dark skinned. Like they both about the same build. But
that's pretty good.
Yeah, man, that was kind of crazy to see. But I thought that even with Drew Lock playing, because the reason why I thought that Seattle might give them a better game than that, because those 49ers Seahawks games are always pretty tight because those teams are going to play good defense. They're going to try to run the ball. and they know each other so well. So it's not like there's anything that the other team is going to do that the other team doesn't know about.
But I feel like it would have been a different game if it was a different quarterback in. I think the quarterback play is what made the game different.
Mm-hmm.
Because Drew Lock was in, I kind of knew the 49ers were going to wash him. I honestly didn't give Seattle a fighting chance before that.
If it wasn't for the turnovers, I believe, let's see, I know the Seahawks lost the turnover battle, but I can't remember how bad it was. Let me pull it up real quick. But it was 2-2, because that's right, because Purdy did throw the one pick, and then they had somebody fumbled or something. But
yeah.
And Drew Lock threw his 2 picks. But the thing was, the third down efficiency was so overwhelmingly in favor of the 49ers. They both had 11 third downs, but the 49ers converted 6. Seahawks only converted 2. That's where when you don't lose the turnover battle and you're looking for something else, I mean, the 49ers won by 2 scores, but they had 200 total yards of offense more than what the Seahawks had. They only converted 4 more third downs than the Seahawks converted out of the same 11 tries. But when you look at the discrepancy in that game, to me, those third down conversions mean a hell of a lot more than we outgained y'all by 200 yards. Because even if you're converting on, let's say you have a bad third down conversion efficiency, but you get a couple of long touchdowns and you're keeping yourself in the game, or you get a couple of turnovers and you're able to score easily off those turnovers, you're not going to rack up a whole lot of yards, but you're going to keep yourself in the game. But if you're steadily converting third downs, moving the ball down the field, and you're not losing the turnover battle, that's when you'll have time of possession on your side. If you're scoring, then you're going to keep yourself in the game more that way than just, we got a lot of yards. So I like to look at like turnovers, third down conversions, and then also the rushing yards, because rushing yards mean you're sustaining drives. You're able to run the ball. If you're able to still run the ball and run the ball effectively, you're piling up the rushing attempts and the rushing yards. You're controlling the clock. You're probably going to win the game that way. But that's just me. I don't mind new school football, throwing it 50, 60 times a games. But at the same time, I still appreciate teams like the 49ers, like, the Dolphins or some of these other teams out here that still like to run the ball, but yet still get creative doing so.
Yeah.
One of the other scores that really caught my eye was this gem of a baseball game that we had between the Vikings and the Raiders.
Yo. I'm watching the game, right?
Bruh.
It's the fourth quarter with like 2 minutes left, and it's still 0-0. And I'm like, bruh. Let me tell you what my dumb ass did. So y'all know, I bet, I had my parlay set up. So I'm like, Vikings and Raiders? I'm like, okay. I'm like, Jettas is back, touchdown. Devontae Adams, touchdown. Josh Jacobs, touchdown. Because the defenses are good, but I'm like, offensively, these niggas should go crazy. I'm like, Jettas should easily have one. Madison should get one. Addison should get one. I picked all 3 of them. I was like, cool. On the other side, I was like, all right, Devontae's going to get one. Josh Jacobs at least going to get a running one. That's 2. Bro, I'm talking about, it's 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and I'm like, yeah, this parlay is done. There's no way I'm getting any of this in 2 minutes.
Bro, you should have known that.
Overtime.
You should have known that at halftime. I'd have just been like,
I couldn't change it. By that point, it was in. It was in at that point. I was like, bro, this game pissed me off. I'm like, how y'all put up goose eggs until like 2 minutes left, and the Vikings literally only score a field goal? It's crazy.
I told y'all about Dobbs. I told y'all.
Dobbs didn't play though, did he? Or
yeah, he played. Then he got benched
for
I want to say they're going with Mullins. They've already announced it
Yeah,
this week.
Mullins.
Like,
Yeah,
Mullins
Mullins is
came
starting
in
this
and
week.
played because they benched Dobbs. And then they announced, I think today maybe or so, that Mullins is going to start this weekend. So, but I mean, he had his Linsanity type of run, for a few games, and he kept a minute. He basically came in and did what you want a good backup quarterback to do, and that's give your team a fighting chance. And he did that, but he could only sustain that for so long. And so now they need to turn to, Nick Mullins, and hopefully he can, give him a fighting chance to sustain that for a little while.
I still like Dobbs. I think with that offense they have, it's not them. He's naturally gonna try to do too much where he doesn't have to. You have Madison in the backfield. You have Addison, Hawkinson, and now you got Jettas back on offense. You just need the O-line to give him time to get the ball out of his hands. I mean, it sounds easy. It sounds cut and dry, and I know it's not.
Right.
But realistically, I'm like, with what they have, hell, I can get my ass back there and get these niggas the ball. Like, damn.
Now, here's the thing, though. Jettas is now hurt. Being monitored, because of that chest injury or what have you that he suffered in that game. That put him out for that game.
I ain't gonna lie, I'll shut him down for the season.
I was just getting ready. That's where I was going with this.
Because there's no way
you read my mind.
The Vikings are close as far as playoffs. Like the Lions got that division clearly, of course. I still think they're a better team than the Bears, but at this point, I'd shut Jettas down. Addison is looking great as a rookie.
Now here's where your belief in your quarterbacks coincide with the confidence you have in the health of your wide receiver. Bradley Beal just came out and hit a 3 to open up the Suns Warriors game. I think this is his first action of the season. We'll touch on that later though, but I just have to spit that out there right quick since I just saw it. But they're 7-6 right now, like I talked about when I was talking about the playoff picture a little while ago. Just to kind of loop it back with you in here now. They're in the 6th seed right now behind the Eagles at the 5 seed,
which is still
because of the way that I talked about it earlier. But I mean, we could circle back to it real quick since you're here. But the other teams below them, the Packers at 6-7, the Rams at 6-7, the Seahawks are at 6-7, and then the Falcons and Saints are at 6-7.
And we talked about it in the group chat that NFC South is gonna, over the next what we got left, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 5 weeks,
4.
Is it 4? Hold on. 18,
4.
15, 16, 17, 18. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
We got 4 weeks left. Yeah, because everybody played 13 games.
So that
I
NFC
called them
South,
the NFC basement earlier because you can't even call them the South. They just so terrible right now.
But over the next 4 weeks, that division is gonna flip flop so much outside of the Panthers because they just ass.
Yeah,
them niggas ass. They ain't going nowhere. But outside of those 3 teams, it's literally gonna flip flop between Atlanta, Tampa Bay, and I'm actually. When I was looking at the records, I was like, hold on, how the fuck is Tampa Bay ahead of everybody? But between Atlanta, the Saints, and Tampa Bay, it's really going to flip-flop. I think it's probably more than likely going to flip-flop between Tampa Bay and Atlanta. But
check out the reason why the Bucks, this is the explanation for their tiebreaker. They win the tiebreaker over Atlanta based on best win percentage in common games. And they own the tiebreaker over the Saints because of the head-to-head. They beat them in the first game they played.
Yep.
So
that's crazy.
You have those guys, and like I was saying, this was a real critical loss for the Eagles. And you talked about this last week. That
I said it.
If they drop this game, that's why I kind of got into it, and I was like, man, I really hope his stuff gets straightened out because You called this for the last couple of weeks, actually. The last few weeks.
Before that Chiefs game started, I said I said going into that 4-game patch, because I won't count the Seahawks win. I was just going up until the Cowboy. I said we're gonna go 2-2 or 3-1. I did not have us going 4-0. I knew we wouldn't sweep it. I didn't know what 2 games we would drop. I didn't know which games we would win or which one we would drop. The 49er one, I kind of figured it would be that one, but also we always split the series with the Cowboys. So it's not a huge thing to me that we lost, only because, one, we can still win out in the division and still come out good in the conference at number 2 by winning the next 4. We have Seahawks, Giants, Cardinals, Giants. Sounds easy. Totally. When you hear those teams, you're like, oh, cakewalk, right? Cardinals probably will be. Giants, they're going to put up a fight, but I still believe in us over them. Kind of the same thing like you were saying with Dobbs. I don't believe in DeVito, and that defense is going to – DeVito hasn't seen – since he's been the starter, he hasn't really seen the defense like what the Eagles' defensive line and linebackers can do. D-backs, and I hate our D-backs, and I hate our defensive coordinator, but we'll talk about that later. But for the most part, the Dallas game, I didn't think it would be as bad as it was. But also we've been, and me and you, so we've talked about this on here, and I've been very open and real about it because I'm that fan. I'm not the delusional one. We've been getting by week after week. We've won. Other teams have made mistakes that we've capitalized off of. That Chiefs game with Marquise Valdez Scantlin missing that pass that he should have caught for them to win. That's on them, not on us. You know, we capitalized and won. Same thing in Buffalo. Overtime game, we capitalized and won. But I knew eventually it would catch up with us, and it did with the 49ers because, as I had said after the Bills won, that Chiefs defense is stifling. And as much as I don't like Brock Purdy has that offense playing so good that they're going to capitalize off of when the defense makes the offense makes any offense make a mistake.
Yeah, when you can force them into making those mistakes and stuff like that, that's when you can kind of you creating turnovers. It's almost like in basketball when your defense becomes your offense. You can do the same thing in football when you can create those turnovers and flip field position. Or another way you can flip field position is when you pin a team back and you don't let them get a couple of first downs to advance the ball. You know, have them punt from inside inside the 20 or inside the 25, or don't let them get that far. Then you can flip field position that way. There's more than one way to skin a cat, but it's like you gotta make sure you're putting yourself in a position to succeed, and you can only put yourself in a position to succeed and give your team a chance to win if you're operating in all 3 phases of the game. You can't be too heavy in one phase of the game and think that, okay, yeah, we're going to do this now, because as we saw. The Eagles had, the offense can work, but unless that defense gets stops, they're not going to go anywhere. And if that offense isn't working, they have to rely on their defense. Same thing, like I saw a graphic the other day that talked about one of the greatest regular season games ever played, that Chiefs-Rams game that they played in Mexico City, where the final score was like, I think 54-51 or something crazy like that.
I remember that game.
Neither offense could stop the other offense. It was just a shootout.
And it won't anything bad on the defenses, because that year both of their defenses were amazing. Just the offenses also were just
were amazing. Next level, otherworldly.
Yep.
And I mean, when I see complete teams who can do a little bit of everything, teams like the 49ers, the Cowboys have looked pretty good on both sides of the ball this year. The Eagles have looked good on both sides of the ball this year. They have. I mean, I know you're an Eagles fan. I know you may disagree with me, but they've looked pretty good on both sides of the ball this year. The Ravens have held it together despite injuries on both sides of the ball this
And
year.
we've talked about that one. That one has shocked me because I'm like, with the key injuries, it's not just injuries.
Yes.
It is the key injuries that they have, and
Yeah.
they have been the epitome of next man up, and I have loved it.
Another team that's looked good on both sides of the ball this year that's still kind of showing out. And I'm glad. It was funny because me and my kids were talking to my girl, and she was like, the Lions are terrible. We were like, nah, the Lions going to be good this year.
And we said that.
The Lions, they've held it up this year, and we've been talking about them from the beginning.
Number 2, they easily could be number 1 in NFC right now, or
Easily.
NFL at that.
Exactly.
Easily.
Because they've dropped games where you look at how that team has come together and how they've played and how they're capable of playing. And it's like that team is 9-4, but they could easily be 11-2 without a shadow of a doubt.
That Ravens game, Ravens killed them, but it was still, I didn't take that as that's who they were. You know what I mean? Like, that was just one of those games where everything was clicking right for the Ravens. I don't think the Ravens have had any other game like that this season other than that Lions one where they just totally demolished, a team. But the playoff picture is looking it's interesting on both sides, AFC and NFC. That AFC North somehow the Steelers are 6, the Browns are 5, Ravens 1, and I'm like, how?
Hey man, Mike Tomlin is over there holding it together with Gorilla Glue and ace bandages.
So I have a question, right? Small one about Mike Tomlinson, but
okay,
he's at least finished 8-8 or better his entire career, because last season I think was 8-8, barely. If he don't finish 8-8 but makes the playoffs, is that like he technically ends his streak of a quote unquote winning season because of the record, right? But he still makes the playoffs because the AFC sucks.
Yeah, they were 9-8 last year.
9-8, okay. So
yeah, Mike Tomlin has yet to finish below 500. 9-7-1 the year before.
Exactly. So I'm like, he's literally had a winning season every year. He has not had a below 500 year. If he finishes below 500, but
I like Dre's comment.
Is it Mike a win?
Tomlin, I like Dre's comment. Mike Tomlin is a coach who figures out how to win.
He does.
Period.
I love him. Think, I'm gonna be honest. I'm only saying this because I'm looking at what we were talking about earlier with the Bill Belichick stuff.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlinson up in Foxborough don't look bad. He ain't gonna lead the Steelers, but he's still young. He's still young enough though that
exactly the Steelers will be idiots to get rid of Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin is the kind of coach where.
And they usually do for life coaches. I mean, he's
their
3rd coach.
Yeah, in I want to say the last 50 years. He's like the
entire franchise.
Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher,
and now him,
and Mike Tomlin.
That's all they've had. So I'm like, and he's still Tomlin's only what? He's 40.
I think he's 49,
50?
or he may be in his 50s now. Give me 1 second. Let me look it up because I can't remember. I want to say he's I know he's 51, maybe
somewhere around there, because I know his son is in college, so he's at least
51. Yeah, he is 51. That's what I thought. He's 51.
Young. That's young in NFL coach days.
Look,
because if you think about it, NFL coaches are like how the president is. They just be old.
You got peak. You got some that are like 39, 40. Like a Sean McVay. I think Sean McVay ain't even turned 40 yet. And he's been coaching for forever.
I know he's
and then
younger
you got guys like Bill Belichick, who's 71.
Right.
And Pete Carroll. I think Pete Carroll is like a little bit older than Belichick. I think he's like 72, maybe 73. Andy Reid's in his, 60s. I mean, you just got all these guys, and then you look at
McVay is young. McVay is a a year older than me by a couple
Vrabel
months.
is 48.
McVay turns 38 in January, so McVay isn't even 40 yet. He's still not even the youngest. I think I want to say our head coach is the youngest, but he might not be. McVay still might be the youngest head coach. But yeah, like Tomlinson is young enough that he could coach into he's like Belichick. He's gonna be I think he's barring any like horrible seasons. I'm pretty sure he's gonna be a for lifer like everybody else has been with the Steelers. Cowher was actually kind of young when they finally fired him, if you think about it. Cowher
Man,
wasn't even old when they fired him.
McVay is 37. Kevin O'Connell for the Vikings is 38.
Okay, so he's younger.
Shane Steichen is 38.
Really? Dang,
D'Amico is and this was at the beginning of the season. D'Amico is 39.
Okay,
With the
I knew
Texans,
he was around there.
Zach Taylor is 40 with the Bengals. Those are the five youngest. Those are the five youngest NFL head coaches heading into this season.
Okay, so yeah, like I still he's definitely a for lifer. But to pose that question, is this season a wash? If he gets in the playoffs, but he does not have a quote unquote winning record.
No, I wouldn't. It just be. Okay,
is it a winning season?
This is the first time. Why would you call it a winning season if they didn't have a plus 500 record? If they're not at 9-8, then it's not a winning season. But I'm not going to say it's a wash because you still made the playoffs.
Just so happened that the whole division.
It just so happens that if it was a shitty season in the NFC, and I mean the AFC, and you backdoored your way in with a 8-9 record, then hey, you backdoored your way in with an 8-9 record. Considering all the roster turnover and the injury that they've had with their quarterback and whatnot, I wouldn't be mad at it.
Okay, especially with that quarterback room. I would. You pulled up the AB space that day. When we caught the tail end of it, but
yeah,
which was funny. I'm not gonna lie, it was hilarious.
It was quite strange.
Yeah,
it was cool though. It wasn't because it wasn't like
erratic AB. It
exactly.
It wasn't wild AB. He was really the questions that he was being asked were good. As far as the football questions, him continuously talking about pulling up to to the tailgate. He's like, yeah, him wanting to perform.
Yes.
Hey, put that shit on. It's my shit still, boy. But
yeah.
It was a good space. I liked a lot of what he said as far as like the Steeler culture and being somebody who played there, what he thinks needs to happen to turn it around. He still believes in Kenny Pickett. I think it is time to go ahead and let Mason Rudolph finish out the season. I mean, at this point, Trubisky got hurt again, if I remember. So
yeah, I believe so. So they're just snake bitten right now, man. And
it's the league. This season has been horrible for quarterbacks and being hurt. There's only a handful of quarterbacks who have played every week, and not been out at least one week. There's literally a handful. So this is like you said, a lot of teams are going to make the playoffs with backups.
It's crazy because
this could be just like when the Eagles won this Super Bowl with a backup.
With Nick Foles,
this could be one of those seasons. I don't think so. I mean, you never know what could happen once the playoffs start.
Or that year the Giants won it when Phil Simms went down and Hostetler pulled it out for him. Doug Williams wasn't. I don't believe Doug Williams was.
I don't think Doug was the starter.
Was the Redskins starting quarterback in '87? I'm trying to think of what other backups. Kurt Warner, the most famous one.
Yeah, Warner definitely was not the starter.
That was Trent Green's team until he blew his ACL in the preseason. So there's been teams who have done it in the past. You also seen teams who've at least gotten there with a backup. And I remember the Frank Reich game coming in for Jim Kelly and pulling that comeback against the Oilers in I think it was '93. So there's been times where teams have done some amazing things with their backup quarterbacks in the playoffs. It's not to say that we're just totally being dismissive of all these teams with all these injuries. It's just, again, it's almost that I'm just gonna start calling it the Florida State rule. When you're missing one of your key cogs, especially the key cog, people just aren't going to take you as serious. That's just, it is what it is. No shade to nobody, but looking at this coming week before you wrap up the NFL, I'm seeing games on the schedule that I'm starting to get excited about at the end of the season. But honestly, the most intriguing game that I'm looking forward to is going to be that Baltimore-Jacksonville game on Sunday Night Football.
I actually like the Baltimore Miami one, December 31st on New Year's Eve. I'm thinking about going because it's in Baltimore.
No, I'm just talking about just for this upcoming week.
This week.
Yeah,
oh,
just this coming week.
I thought you were looking at like the remainder.
No, just this coming week. Like there's games at the end of the season. Like there's always gonna be those games towards the end of the season where you're looking at them and you're like, ooh, we got a good matchup here. The Texans and the Titans with Stroud and all his receivers being hurt, and then you got the Titans pulled out. I mean, you want to talk about pull it out your ass?
So when we talked about the draft, like amongst us, because we at that point we didn't have Sucio Sportz yet, so we weren't talking about it like live or anything,
right?
Other than like on Spaces. But going into the draft, I cannot remember if it was who it was specifically, but I remember everybody was talking about Titans picking
Will Levis,
and everybody was like,
they already had Malik Willis.
Right, and nobody believed in Will Levis going in. You know, I've been right about a lot this football season. I think I've been a guru this year. I don't know. I said Will Levis going to Tennessee was going to be good for him. I liked him going there because I was like, I like what they had. Derrick Henry, them picking. At that point, they didn't have D-Hop yet.
Yeah, right.
They didn't have him yet, but I still like the team in him, and I was like, that's a good fit for him. And so far, since he's been in, even in losses, he's still been a good fit for that team, and I like him going forward, especially going into next season. Him getting a full off season because he's probably going to be the starter next year.
Like, without a doubt.
Especially what he did last night in Miami. I watched the end of that game. It was amazing. I think with a full off season, he's going to look even different next year. I like the rebuild with him.
Yeah. The thing that I liked, I remember when we were talking about this, and I remember the only pushback I really gave was if Derrick Henry still has something left in the tank at that time, and if Treylon Burks can become, a Deebo Samuel type of player for them, a good playmaker who can also run the ball because he's built almost like a running back style linebacker type of wide receiver. But I was like, if they can get anything out of him, and if Henry has something left in the tank, he's got a good backup when they drafted Tajay Spears from Tulane. So I'm like, okay, they got a little there, they got a little something there, but it's up to those veterans that's there if they have anything left. Then when they went out and got D-Hop, I was like, okay, let's just see what they can do. Who they're going to settle on. They settled on Tannehill.
Which I knew they would.
Through, and then
I knew they would at least start the season with Tannehill.
And see, this is because I remember we talked about it specifically. I want to say your idea was let Tannehill start and then bring in Levis.
If he sucks.
Yeah, if he sucks, or if at some point Levis shows that he has some sort of, you wanted to like slow roll it, basically exactly what the Titans did.
Exactly.
And exactly what almost pretty much like how you said it was going to go. It was going to go. Now, you didn't say like, I think he's going to come in and lead him to a comeback and he's going to be the best and blah, blah. All you said was bring him in, slow roll it, but eventually turn the keys over to him, see what you got in the kid.
And I like it. I like it going forward. I don't know if it's enough to keep Henry there.
Well, here's another thing to look at. If they feel like they got their guy with Levis, right? And you want to build around him, he's still on that rookie deal. You got, I want to say, he was a second round pick. You have at least 3 more years of him on that rookie deal. Spend money. Spend money. If you feel like he is the guy and you don't need to go out and find a quarterback,
Do you
spend
trade?
money.
Do you trade Henry for the draft picks? Or I need
No,
to look.
you keep him and you try to add other
Well,
pieces
isn't
around Levis.
he's a free agent after this year, right?
He
I
may
believe
be.
so. Because I know a lot of people have been talking about him in Baltimore next year, and it wasn't trade; it was more like free agency. I can
Hold
tell
up,
you
I'm about to
Derrick
pull it up in just a second.
Henry.
But
So,
the one thing that I do know, even if Derrick Henry is a free agent after this year, spend money to bring him back. You know what I'm saying? Spend money to bring him
but at
back
this point,
because
of Derrick Henry's career, right? He's got the money. He's made the money with Tennessee. Tennessee has paid him very handsomely. I think for him and what he may have left as a running back, because we know how running backs, career shelf life, and he's actually surpassed that, where most running backs would have already been like thrown out the pasture. Do you chance it staying there for more money, or do you try to go get a ring now? Because at this point, he can go to a Baltimore where you put him in that backfield. That's an entirely different offense now, and I love that. He goes hypothetically, let's say he goes to a Chiefs. I love Pacheco. I like McKinnon, but you put a Derrick
Mhm.
Henry in that backfield, that's an entirely different, dangerous offense.
And check this
A
out.
Buffalo, you put him in a Buffalo with Allen and what they got, and again, I like all of these things running backs, but a Derrick Henry in free agency is like, hey man, I know what we got, but god damn it, Henry right there. Like
He's
I'd be
he
stupid
his
not to bring him
contract
in.
voids on February 23rd,
Okay.
2024.
And that's what I thought. So he's a
So
free agent.
right, with the restructuring and everything, those last 2 years got had a void clause triggering them.
So I don't think he stays. I I mean, if I'm him, I'm gone. I'm not gonna lie. Even with the young Will Levis, even with what
Mm-hmm.
the potential could be, even with D Hop there, I still don't believe in the team as a whole
Mm-hmm.
to stay for another contract unless at this point I'm saying I'm worrying about the future of my family and not my legacy. Because a lot of players, that's what they battle with, where it's like, and I've seen it in the NBA where some teams have gone somewhere else for money instead of ring because they're like, I ain't even worried about the ring no more at this point. I just want to keep getting this money, and set myself up for the future.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm him, with what he can still do, even last night, I'm watching him run and I'm like, Henry is still that guy. He is still that guy. I'm looking at a Baltimore more than any of the other teams. I might even be looking at, and I like what the Lions got a running back, but I'm looking at a Lions. I'm looking at a potential Philly, even a Dallas. I'm kind of looking at all of these teams that are at the top of the playoff picture right now, and I'm like, this, he could change an entire offense. He's that type of player where he can make your entire offense look so much different with the weapons that you already have. I don't think he stays though. I really think that there's nothing Tennessee can do to keep him there. But we've seen stranger things happen, but I just don't. They would have to bring in, I don't know.
There's gonna be some movement and some shifting going on, but I keep telling people, like a player like a Derrick Henry, when you get a running back who has that running style at his age, he'll be 30 going into next season.
Okay, which
Running
is
backs,
around that running back time where they're thrown out the pasture. And this man is still running like he's in his 20s, early 20s,
a
because he
little
is in
bit,
his 20s.
a little
So
bit. He doing
I
all
put
right.
the I put a bag. Not I ain't saying a big bag, but I'd put a nice if I'm, a team that is a running back away, or a running back that could, like him, that could change our, like I said, change our offense and make it even more dangerous, I would throw a nice number at him and kind of, let him like go in with that same thing. Like, man, Derek, you could change our offense. You're what we've been missing. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I liked our running game, but I would love our running game with you in the backfield.
I mean, honestly, I could find somebody that could tote the rock and give me 4.1 yards of carry that I ain't got to throw it back at. I could get that in the fourth round. So
I mean, look, I mean, to be honest, Philly did that. That's why they let old
that's
boy
what
go
I'm
so
saying.
they
Like,
let him walk so easy. I mean,
but this is
Swift,
this is
we got
why
Swift, we got Swift for nothing. We ain't using him.
this is why running backs have been so devalued, is because they've become more specialized. And when you got a guy who can do a few different things, like a Christian McCaffrey, Alvin
CMC
Kamara,
is
Aaron
dangerous, man.
Jones, when you got guys who are multifaceted,
How
guys
long is
like a Derrick
Kamara?
Henry,
How long is Kamara with the Saints?
I think he's got 1 or 2 more years left.
If it's
But
one, he's gone.
the
Because
thing is like
man,
you look at the way the running back position has changed over the years and how it's become
one injury and it's
devalued.
done.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
it's
why.
because shelf life of an NFL player overall, I want to say, is like 3.5 years.
Hmm.
Shelf life of a running back is probably just under that because they literally get hit every single play.
And once you get that
And
first, once you got that knee injury, and you
you
can work your
slow
way back.
down, man. You can
You can
work your
work your
way
way back,
back
but
and you're never
teams
the
have moved
same.
on.
You're
Uh-uh.
never the same. And you're always going to have
Rarely.
something that's going to slow you down.
Super
So a
rare.
lot of the times, uh, what people don't realize is that it's not an easy position to play. It's probably one of the toughest, if not the toughest. But they just don't get valued the way they used to because they aren't used like they used to be. And so that's just something that you have to come to grips with when you're a guy like a Derrick Henry who's 29, going into a free agency year at a position where teams are traditionally like, well, screw it. I'm not even paying a running back on a second contract, much less
Because
paying a running back on a third contract.
you honestly can get a rookie coming out of the draft that's going to surprise you in the third, fourth round. It ain't
Yep.
even got to be a first, second round running back no more.
Yep.
You're going to get a good running back between 3 to 6 now. To
Yeah.
be completely honest, that comes
And
in
and if
and
you fit them in with like specific skill sets, like if you have a guy who catches the ball out of the backfield or who can line up in the slot or out wide, but he's a traditional quote unquote running back, but he just lines up outside or catches the ball more. Okay, cool. I got my third down guy.
yep,
If you
and
got
that's
a
how you got to
guy,
look at it now.
right?
Yep,
If you got a guy who's about 6 foot 230, built like a fire hydrant and runs like a bowling ball.
you got
Okay,
your
I got
power
my
back.
short yardage guy, my
Yep,
power guy. Or you may even have different styles of runners. Like I see this guy is a one cut zone type of runner, whereas I see this guy over here, he's more of a power scheme type of runner. Whatever scheme I run, I will draft that sort of running back to fit that scheme.
and I realized that like, and I'm all anytime we're talking about stuff, I'm always going to go to Philly because that's just my team. But I realized that with them, you have Swift, you got Gainwell, and you got Boston Scott. All
Mm-hmm.
three of them, like you just described, do different things. I think
Mm-hmm.
Swift is a really good just running back. He's just a running back. You can kind of line him up left, right, slide, wherever, hand him that ball, and he's gonna get you those yards. He has finesse and power.
Mm-hmm.
He can cut, he does it all. Gainwell to me is a good short yardage. He's a good one cut, and he can also line up in the slot. Boston Scott, he's more of a goal line, short yardage. Like you said, those short, stocky ones that can just pound it and get through the middle, and he's
Mm-hmm.
going to get you that touchdown on the, with 5 yards or less. Boston Scott's right there. So, and a couple other teams have, but I think it's rare when you can have three like that. Some teams have two, some just have one, but You can go find that in the draft. Like you said, I can
Yeah.
draft 3 rookies that can do
It,
exactly that
it's
and pay
simple.
them
It's simple to
less.
find that in the draft. Like you can put it together and make it work. But the thing is like I don't think people really understand because everybody wants to say they should do this or they should do that. But you got to understand the game is also a business. Like it's not
Yep.
just let's do whatever it is that we want to do and you know, um, let's make things happen the way we want things to happen. It's a business, and sometimes the business side of things work. Sometimes it doesn't. Um, like for example, just to touch on this real quick as we transition from the NFL, Shohei Ohtani finally picked his team, and I know you tweeted that out, the Ohtani watch. I got misled, like John Morosi got misled with the bad source thinking that he was going to Toronto. Next thing you know, Shohei drops the LA Dodgers pick on IG, just plain old blue background, white block letters. Hey, I'm going to the Dodgers.
700 million.
Million over 10 years.
Woo-hoo.
You look at that.
When they bought my son a baseball bat that same day. I haven't given it to him yet. Have not given it to him yet. But
Man,
I
you
bought
might as
it.
well
I
put it
bought
in his
him
hand now. Tell him,
Hey,
hey,
man,
get used to this, son. Get used to
let me
it.
tell you something. Let me tell you something. Don't worry about it. That and a soccer ball. That's all he needs for the rest of his life. Because
Yes, sir.
these numbers are crazy.
Now,
Crazy.
one of the things that I loved about this contract is that they found a loophole, basically.
I'm about to say, yeah, you said the verbiage of it and the breakdown of the numbers was amazing.
So the contract is 700 million, right? 10 years, 700 million. Average AAV, average annual value of 70 million a year. However, this was Ohtani's idea to defer 680 of that 700 million until after the contract itself actually expires. Jermaine, how does that work? How is that even legal? Let me tell you.
Smart man.
What happens is the AAV actually goes from 70 to 46 for tax purposes, salary cap purposes and whatnot, so they can keep playing other players around it. The actual salary portion in cash that he's getting is only going to be $2 million a year over every year for those 10 years. Those other $68 million a year payments trigger after that contract is over. So in year 2034 through 2043, he's going to get a lump sum every July 1st of $68 million.
Which is similar to the Bobby Bonilla. We love Bobby Day.
Wait. It is not. It's similar in that it's a deferred payment. However, Bobby's had interest. This does not.
Yeah. Bobby's
no interest.
Bobby actually was making more than what the
Yes.
contract actually said.
Yes.
Which I think last year was his last payment, right?
I want to say it's 2025. I think it's
Okay.
2025 is the last one.
So he still got
not
two
mistaken.
more.
Yeah. Still got two more.
Let me tell you something. Bobby was smart as hell.
Between
And even Shohei, I love that verbiage of that because one, that shows it gives me that Tim Duncan mindset. Tim Duncan did that quietly for years and nobody talked about it. People, me as a Laker fan, I knew about it and always wanted Kobe to do that because those years where we sucked, we couldn't sign anybody.
But here's the thing. There's a lot
contract
more players that do
up.
stuff like that. Tom Brady is the most famous.
Yep, he did it.
Brady's the most famous for it. But even further,
I love it.
People thinking that this is against the rules and whatnot. Jeff Passan, who I don't really care for, and I'm starting to come around on, for ESPN, he's their lead baseball guy. Article 16 in the CBA talks about deferred compensation. And it states There shall be no limitations on either the amount of deferred compensation or the percentage of total compensation attributable to deferred compensation for which a uniform player's contract may provide. In plain English, it say they can defer as much money as they want to, and we can't do shit about it because it's in the rules. So for all the people saying that's illegal, they shouldn't be able to do that, and blah blah.
But Shohei was the one who kind of came to them, right? It was him that was
it was his idea to do it this way.
And I love it because now it's like, all right, yeah, I may have quote unquote signed for 700 million, but let me defer X amount of this to the end.
Exactly.
And he's I'm trying to say this without sounding crazy, but a lot of foreign baseball players, whether they are of Asian or some Spanish, they already have learned how to live off of smaller means where they don't need a lot.
It's not. It could be that, but also as much money as Shohei's making in endorsements and whatnot.
That too.
It's not like he's gonna miss very much.
He got the EA Sports endorsement, and that's the other side of it that probably has allowed him to do that. When your endorsement money is of X amount, you're gonna make enough to where you're good as far as where you live, who you have to take care of, because every player has people.
Two of the more famous examples of recent memory that I remember, Gronk and Marshawn Lynch. Gronk said he never touched his NFL money. He lived totally off his endorsement money. Marshawn Lynch was famous for, making sure the young brothers take care of their bread, take care of their chicken, and make sure their mentals is right.
Ocho
and Marshawn, big time. Big
Ocho
time.
Also.
Ocho talks
Even
about
now.
how frugal he is. Yeah,
even
still
now.
to this day. To this day.
And I know you watch him and Unc, bro. It'd be so funny because he be getting on Unc. He gets on Unc Shannon like, what was it the other night where he said, why do you need courtside season tickets at the
right? Yeah.
Why do you gotta? He said, why do you have to fly private and da da da? And I understand why. Because I mean, you pay for luxury. I have played X amount and made X amount, and I have did this and this in my career after football to where I can do these things. But I get what Ocho's saying too. He said, man, I am no different than the people.
Let me tell you something.
I can sit in business class or first class or a regular seat with you people. Let me talk to y'all. Let's talk. Let's talk on this flight. I do it. I ain't gonna lie. I'm kind of like Ocho though.
When I wrote,
I may have a security guard with me. Not gonna lie. But
when I wrote this article that dropped today, I was trying to relate it to how the Astros need to follow suit and make sure that they, bring back some of their upcoming pending free agents that they need to keep.
Yankees,
mainly Kyle Tucker. But this isn't the first time the Dodgers have done this. The Dodgers also did it with recent free agency signings, Mookie Betts, as well as Freddie Freeman's contract. Between 2033 and 2044, the bulk of this is Shohei's, but part of this comes from Betts and Freeman, but they'll owe those three players a total of $857 million.
Now, let me ask you this, because every year in every sport, the salary cap goes up and all of that. Does that hurt you in the long run, or you're already in hopes that the salary cap is so high that it doesn't even matter?
In baseball, the way
looking that far ahead, of course.
In baseball, the way the economics work, it's not going to hurt them. It's only going to help them because if you think about it, 10 years from now, having to pay out all those balloon payments to those guys, they're going to be making so much more money then.
Gotcha.
That the impact of it won't be felt as much then. Also, the way the economics work in baseball, there's only a handful of teams, literally a handful of teams that can afford to do this. The Dodgers, of course, maybe the Angels, the Yankees, the Red Sox, and I want to say maybe.
And it's so crazy. We can afford to do it, but I doubt they do it.
No, they wouldn't. But I mean, there's only
because Aaron
so
Judge
many teams that can actually afford to do something like this.
And even them, I like the move that they just did with bringing in from what from the Padres.
Juan Soto.
Yeah, I love that. That was a beautiful trade.
Yeah, and
A
he
rare
actually
trade that you don't get to see too often, in baseball.
right, and
Happens
it's already
every once in
happened
a while,
twice
but
with Soto, not once but twice.
hmm
The Nationals traded him to the Padres. Now the Padres traded him to the Yankees. I
I
think
love that.
the
Him and
Padres are
Judge in that
starting to have
outfield.
some money issues because if you remember, they gave Manny Machado that big $300 million something deal.
Give us him and Titus.
They
What the hell?
backdoor and signed Fernando Tatis to a huge extension.
hmm
Uh, they brought in the
He's one of my favorite players right now too. That's not a Yankee.
Blake Snell and Yu Darvish.
Yep,
So
they
they've
did.
been spending money,
They
and,
have.
and now it's like, well, shit, let's see what we can do with Juan Soto, and they couldn't do anything with him. So they're like, damn, do we really want to pay him another guy, another big $300 and something million contract?
Yep.
What do we do? Who do we keep?
Thank you. Thank you.
And the Yankees benefited
Can't
from
wait
it.
to see
So
him in pinstripes next year.
I'm just gonna
Let's
say
go.
it like this. I don't think that this is going away in Major League Baseball anytime soon.
I love it because, like you said, if you have those big name players that can
Well,
live off of the endorsement money without having to worry about the
mhm.
contract side of their actual
and that's totally
MLB
doable in
contract
this day and
hurting them.
age. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's totally doable in this day and age because there's so many different avenues for these guys to get this money. But the reason why I think it's not really going away is because, again, there's only a few teams that can actually do this. Number two is going to have to be brought up in a collective bargaining agreement, which I don't think that they're going to have another labor negotiation for several years.
and
So it's
even
going to be at
then,
least several more years before they can even address this and
even
make any
then,
amendments to it.
it's smart for the only time it can hurt the player is if something happens to where they're not getting the endorsements and it's like, dang, I did this and I wasn't thinking of what could happen or something like that. Like, in the sense of saying protecting the player, but if it's a big name player and they have like a Shohei who's getting EA Sports money from being on the cover of MLB The Show, um, or just different endorsements over in Japan because
Mm-hmm.
he's a big player here. He's even bigger over there. He's not just getting money from here; he's getting money
Which
overseas.
which is
Think
another
about the
reason why
Spanish
I think he stayed in LA.
that too, and even with the shorter travel going home,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. But also, a lot of the Spanish players, same thing. Like they have endorsements at home too. May not be as much as in America, of course, but it's enough to where they may be able to just take that money from Mexico or Dominican Republic or Cuba, Puerto Rico, wherever they're from.
They ain't
That's
getting
their
that much
family
money
money.
down there.
True, but that could be
They
their
making,
family
trust me,
money to
they
take care
making
of their
the
family down there.
bulk of their money here.
Well, that part I do know.
They
But
making the
those
extreme
smaller
bulk.
endorsements there is like, okay, cool. Let the family down there keep all that to make sure they're good because they also take care of a lot of people back at home also. So I
I
mean, I like
mean,
it. I like it. I love it.
it's
I wish
it's
the
here to
Yankees did it.
stay. It's here to stay. It ain't going nowhere.
I need Aaron
And
Judge to look at this and be like, hey
it's one
man,
of those things where we just gotta kind of deal with it. There's not going to be that many players that are going to qualify for a contract. These large whopping deals. Number one, number two, there aren't going to be that many guys that's going to say, hey, you know what, stretch my money out over the course of 20 years instead of the course of the life of the contract. So it is what it is. It's here to stay. It ain't going nowhere. And it's just going to be exciting to watch how every year one of these teams goes out and literally tries to buy a world championship and they do not succeed. Happens every
every year,
single year.
every year, every sport, basketball, it happens. Phoenix
Moving
Phoenix recently just
Yep,
He's doing the
they
same.
tried it, but moving from heartbreak to heartwarming,
Very.
it was cool to see LeBron James Jr., aka Bronny, make his college basketball debut
It was.
this
It
past
definitely was.
weekend. It was real dope to see that he overcame the cardiac arrest and everything from this summer. Not only survived that potential life-threatening scare, but he got cleared to get back on the court, full practice, and now got cleared to actually play in the game. Came in, had a chase down block, and his first points was a 3-pointer on the break on the wing.
On a pull up. Ooh, it
Catch
was
and
beautiful.
shoot, just in rhythm, tossed
Hit
it
him
to
perfect.
him. He
Perfect.
didn't. He just caught it, squared up, rose up, shot it, release, follow through, just textbook.
And I like the way the team looked with him compared to, and we talked about this last week. How were they going to look?
Yep.
Because I didn't really like the chemistry that they had going in, like the previous games, where they've looked good, they've looked bad, they've had their up and downs. But I love the way they looked with him in the lineup.
No, they looked pretty good. They dipped to L. They took the L. I believe it was 84-79.
Yeah.
But he also, it's teams like that when it comes to NCAA basketball where I wish these guys would stay in school a little bit longer.
Man.
Because if you look at that group of guys that UFC has, especially, with those freshmen there, if they stayed there, not just this year, but they came back next year, oh my God.
Sophomore, junior year together.
Oh my God, bro. We talking about, I wish that I could see that, because every year we see it with other teams. Like you're seeing it with Purdue when Edie decided to come back. You typically see it with teams like Wisconsin, Indiana, some of the Michigan State schools, Big Ten schools like that. You'll see it with Gonzaga all the time. That's how Mark Few built up his program. Was he would get these 2, 3, and sometimes every now and then a 4-star guy that would stay 2, 3, and 4 years.
And I think a lot of coaches like
build a program like that.
They don't want the one and dones. They really don't. Calipari has made a wonderful career of one and dones. I love Coach Cal. First off, he's made a amazing career on the back end of since he's been at Kentucky, at least of one and done players.
He started it actually at Memphis and transferred it to Kentucky. But then also you got to look at it too. Coaches like Coach K, who was a traditionalist. Exactly. You saw a lot of the old school coaches adapt to it.
Because
Jim
his
Boeheim.
first one was his first one and done. Was it Kyrie?
Oh gosh,
Kyrie was the first one. I ain't gonna say first one, but the first big one.
The very first one that honestly I remember was Corey Maggette.
Was Corey a one and done?
Corey Maggette was a one and done. Yeah, one and done.
Okay.
This was before it. I want to say that's when you could still go from high school to the NBA. It was something like that. But anyway, he was like the very first one I remember Duke having, because everybody that went to Duke went for at least 2 years and then they would leave.
At least 2 to 3. It was between 2, 3, 4. You never Once Kyrie did that, his one and done, you started seeing it more. Then you had Doc Rivers.
When they put the rule in, and they started making guys go, and it became that one and done era. Coach K was kind of slow to adapt at first, but he quickly got a hold of it, because you also had in that time
Brandon Jennings was actually the first one that was like,
he was the first one to
challenge
waste
y'all's time.
Exactly.
I'm gonna go overseas.
By not even going. Yep.
He said, I know I'm not gonna go to class. I remember what he said. I'm not going to class. I really don't care to be here. I'm coming here because I have to come here. Because if it weren't for that, I'd rather just go straight to the league. He went over to Italy, did his thing, then got drafted. And I think that was better for him, to be honest.
It was, and to me,
it made him a better guard.
I also think that it gave some guys a false sense of I can do this too,
Yeah,
because
not
we've since
everybody.
seen guys do it and not be nowhere nearly as successful.
It doesn't work
Um,
for everybody to go over
no,
there. Some guards, like for Brandon Jennings, I think he needed that overseas as far as that learning the guard, like the way they play as guards overseas in
mhm.
Europe. He needed that aspect of it to see the floor better.
You
Uh,
learn the fundamentals,
Passing
the pick and roll game, the outside
exactly
shooting in mid
because
range
Brandon
games, and
Jennings was just
precedent.
he was a street. He was more of a wild player, but he was a dog on offense.
And the
I
thing
remember
is
watching him in
like
high school
he
at Oak Hill.
used to use his speed and quickness and athleticism and just his God given talent and just out talent and out quick everybody.
Derrick
But
Rose in
when
high
you
school.
but when you get to the upper levels of basketball, everybody was that dude in high school
Hmm.
or in college. So now it's like you got a bunch of dudes. Now you playing against everybody else that was just like you when they were on that level. And
Hmm.
now they're professionals and they got grown man strength and they've grown into their game and everything else. And now it's infinitely more times tougher. However, what we're starting to see now more than ever, especially in basketball, is that a lot of these guys are coming in one and dones and whatnot, and they're more physically mature than
Yep,
the KGs and the Kobe's and guys like that were when they were first
that
coming
were
into
like
the league
this
as
big.
freshmen and whatnot. Right.
The Tracy
Um,
McGrady's that came in super small,
right. You
undersized for their positions.
exactly. You're seeing guys like that, and you're like, you know, every once in a blue moon, you would see a Dwight Howard, and you'd be like, oh my God, look at this guy.
Look at Zion. Zion came in
Right.
overweight slightly, but still very large for his size. More of a Zach
Zion was
Randolph.
built like
Zach
a
Randolph.
3-4 defensive end, basically.
Yeah,
6'6", 285. Like this guy
solid
was built like
and could
he
bounce.
if Calais Campbell kept playing basketball instead of playing football, he would be Zion Williamson probably.
Yep.
But that's what we're looking at. Um, but just seeing going back to our original point, seeing Bronny James come in and play and whatnot, it was very good. It emotional for LeBron as he put out that post saying that's all he was looking forward to this weekend outside of the playoff game was
Yep. Amazing,
the
amazing weekend for their entire family. To be
and
honest,
then
though, I'm
also
so happy for them.
right, there goes the stupid thing again, man. I forgot about that. But your other note for us to touch on was Mikey Williams, a basketball prospect
I
who's
I
in
agree with
his
Sloan
last year of
also.
high school.
He's
Sean
definitely
Kemp
Sean
and
Kemp with the
Charles.
chart. He is.
Yes,
That's exactly what Zion is.
yes, yes.
More
If
Sean
you
Kemp, but I like the Charles the toughness of Charles Barkley. The way Barkley was just
he's he's
undersized for a power forward,
uh-huh.
but too big for a small forward, and he couldn't shoot.
But I
But
get where Sloan is coming from because
mhm,
basically he has Charles Barkley's body with Sean Kemp's athleticism.
exactly,
That's what
exactly.
it is. That when
I
you
agree
when
with
you
both of y'all.
mesh those two players together,
You got
that's
Zion.
what you get. You got Zion in this body, but he's Charles's body, but Sean's athleticism, and that's what we got.
He's got bounce, crazy bounce.
And I mean, since we talking about basketball, let's go ahead and get into the NBA right now. The in season tournament just concluded. It ended up with the Lakers beating the Pacers. Um,
Shocked the fuck out of me. I ain't
bro,
gonna lie,
like
and I'm a
it
Laker
was
fan, but
crazy.
shocked the fuck out of me.
It was crazy because those two teams were the only two teams that went undefeated throughout the whole tournament.
Yep.
And when you look back at the tournament and everything, those two teams played. Everybody pretty much played hard. Nobody jaked it. Nobody
The
like.
tournament was better than what we all expected. Also,
Mhm.
it was we didn't know what to expect because we'd never seen it before in the NBA.
Thank you.
But every game was competitive, and I like the way I do like how they incorporated it into the 82 game schedule. So it's
Yes.
not any extra games. You're still playing the same amount of games. It's just, all right, we're gonna take these games and make them tournament games. I like it going forward. Like I said, we've talked about it. I'm a soccer fan. And I love the way soccer has done it. Soccer also plays way more games. Well, no, actually they don't. They don't play 82. They play less than 82. But it ends up being a pretty strenuous schedule because those tournament games don't count with the league games. So they're
Right.
playing totally separate games. But I like how the NBA did it and incorporated it into the 82. So you're not playing additional games. And it's just like soccer where whoever wins that in-season tournament, it's not a guarantee they're going to even go win the NBA
Mm-hmm.
championship. You're going to have there's going to be some years you may get the same champion because I'm hoping they're keeping this going forward. But then there's some years where just like this year, I don't see us winning an NBA championship unless we do some crazy trades. But
It's
the
it's
Lakers
it's a
win,
thing where
but somebody else is going to win.
they're keeping it moving forward, and the talk has already started. Should winning the in-season tournament guarantee you a playoff spot, so on and so forth. So it's gonna be here to stay moving forward. It's just gonna be, does the prize money go up?
Yeah,
Does it guarantee you a playoff spot? Certain other implications. Dre's talking about the refs. Bro, the refs have been bad
in
in
all sports.
every sport
It ain't just
and at
basketball, man.
every level.
Football has
And
been horrendous for
it's
years.
been horrible everywhere. Like, I saw a call the other night against the Rockets, I believe it was. The guy was clearly in bounds and saved the ball, and they called it out of bounds. And I don't even think they reviewed it. Yes, Dre, even at the high school level, because
Facts.
I've been to two high school football games this season in person, and I've watched another 2 on TV. Horrible. I even got a buddy of mine, a couple of buddies of mine. One is a basketball ref, he does more college games, and another one is a football ref. I think he does more high school stuff. But they even complain about the officiating. But getting back to the NBA and whatnot, and it's going to, the in-season tournament is not going anywhere. I think they're just going to make some changes and checks and different things like that to it. And I love that they made sure that LeBron talked about the guys on the back end of the roster who had 500,000 is going to mean a lot more to. I love that they brought that up because to me, like I was telling somebody in a Facebook group page I was in, I'm like, oh, that's nothing. They don't have to increase this. And I'm like, please learn what you're talking about before you start talking. The league minimum is 1.1 million. Most of the guys on a 15-man roster are making that 1.1 million. There's only a handful of guys on every roster that's making more than 5 to 10 million a year. That $500,000 that they win for winning that in-season tournament represents almost half of some of these guys' salary. That's a lot of fucking money to a lot of players in this league. So don't tell me that 500, it ain't nothing to the guys who make that, damn near on a per game basis. That, yes, it's nothing to them because they're making, 30, 40, $50 million a year.
To that LeBron, AD, Rui, the starters, D-Load and all them, that 500K cool, but that ain't, that's a small percentage of what they make.
Right.
But like you said, those guys at the end of the bench that aren't playing, aren't getting in the game. That 500K is a lot for them. They never.
One of the cool quotes or whatever that I heard about it, it was Miles Turner, Pacers big man from University of Texas. They asked him something like, what would you do with the money, or how do you plan on spending it, whatever. He was like, I'm from Texas, man. I want to take care of my family, so I'm going to probably use it and invest and buy me some land or something. And he ain't lying, because I promise you, out here in Texas, if he took that whole 500,000, not knowing that he can't take the whole 5 because it's taxes and all that, but if he just took a $500,000 and said, I'm going to buy some land, He's buying acres and acres and acres of land, depending on where you buy it at. Prime land, farmland out here in Texas. So, and that's something that can't nobody take away from you. As long as you paying the taxes on it, it's yours. So it's just, and this is a guy who's one of the Pacers' top 3 highest paid players. And he's even talking about, I'm gonna go and invest it in something, that's gonna be more meaningful for me down the line. But I just love the way the guys took it serious. I'm glad the fact that LeBron was the first one to win it, because that kind of adds a little something to it. Because he's going to want to put that as something in his legacy, like, I won the first in-season tournament. It's cool, but I mean, bro, really?
As a Laker fan, I'm glad we won it, right?
But I mean, it's like you and Aham were talking about. It's like a team bragging about winning the Caribou Cup.
Exactly.
Like, oh, whoop-de-doo, you won a Caribou Cup. But
you got all
get regulated.
Right. Like, you won that, you can't get a Premier League win to save your life. You can't get a Champions League win. Like, you about to be in EFL 2, but you happy that you just got a Caribou Cup. It's crazy. Like, but at the same time, we're not about, I think it gives the young guys, from an NBA standpoint, and it should be the same for soccer, but it always isn't. But for the NBA, at least, it gives those young guys, especially the ones that actually play, not the ones at the end of the bench that barely, but even the starters, even some of those young starters, it should give you confidence. I want to see how it turns out tonight playing. I think they got Dallas tonight. I now want to see how
they end up losing that game. Because the Suns and Warriors at halftime right now, but it was real close. It was real close. I want to say it was like 129, 127 or something was the final score. I was sitting here watching
125, 127.
The 125, 127. My bad. Yeah, it was. I mean,
that's still a high scoring game. It's a loss, but I would rather us win.
When I sat down here at the table and got set up and everything, it was 71-61 at the half, right?
First
LeBron comes down on defense and just lets Grant Williams shoot a 3 in his face, and it's 74-61 within the first 15 seconds. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Dallas about to keep running them up. The Lakers fought back and ended up taking over in that third quarter and had a lead going into the fourth. I think it was 95-94 because AD hit a 3 at the buzzer, I want to say, at the end of the third. And then Dallas just barely edged them out in that fourth quarter. So it was a really close game. It was a tight game.
I'm looking at the stat lines, and
Kyrie wasn't playing tonight either. He's still out.
I can tell Dante Exum had 26 points.
Tim Hardaway Jr. had like
32.
Yeah.
Luka had 33. Grant Williams had 19, and then everybody else, it was barely anything that mattered.
The Mavericks had everybody hitting on all cylinders. Hardaway was hitting step backs and pull up threes. Luka, the step backs and the little hezzies were working.
I'm gonna catch the replay tonight.
It was a good game. It was a real good game.
When even the 2-point loss, I would rather win, but Austin Reeves had 22, Taurean Prince had 15, Anthony Davis 37, and LeBron 33, and everybody else, nothing that mattered. D'Angelo Russell 7, Rui 7. That's
this
the
Warriors Suns game right now that's on TV is Warriors up 3, 56-53 at halftime.
Surprising a little bit because of how the Warriors have played. I'm a little shocked this season, but I think everybody's figured the Warriors out. I don't think and the Warriors also haven't figured the Warriors out also with what they have now.
Exactly.
But I think also on the other side of things, I ain't gonna say teams have figured them out. Teams have caught up to them. They have been so far ahead of everybody for so long that now other teams, and it happens, it's supposed to happen in sports. Other teams have finally caught up. Phoenix is, they brought in the right people. The Clippers a little bit, but the Kings, a young team at 13-8, but they're a young team that has been together for a long time. They've made the right trades, brought in the right people.
Yeah.
have the
It's
correct
it's
system.
crazy that you bring up that Kings team because right now they're down by 17 to the Clippers, 52-35 midway
I'm
through the
also
second
not
quarter.
shocked because that veteran Clippers team has some stars that should be playing. They have a big four. They
Right.
literally have a big four. I don't know
Ex-
how they did it in the cap.
by name. By
Yes, by name.
name.
By name, they have a big four that should
Mm-hmm.
be, if you on paper, if you want to be completely honest, on paper, Clippers should be the best team in the league, or at least second behind Phoenix. I think Clippers and Phoenix and Lakers, Denver, Boston,
I was getting ready to say,
Philly.
man, it
I'm
took
not
you a
putting them in
while to get
order.
to them
No.
Celtics.
I was going west to east.
Oh,
I
okay,
won't.
okay. I was about to
Yeah,
say
yeah, yeah.
because I'm
I
like,
won't. I won't put them on in any order. I also would put the Mavs up there, just guard play alone, having Luca and
Mhm.
Kyrie together.
Yeah,
On paper, a
definitely.
lot of these teams should be way better than what they are. Philly at 15-7 makes sense. The Heat at 13-10 to me don't. The Magic surprisingly are at 16-7, and I
Bruh,
say
that's been my
surprisingly, but
surprise for the whole
if you
season.
if you look at that team though, a player, the one thing I like about um and it's not Orlando, it's just like sports in general. When you're looking at like the NFL, when you're looking at the NBA, specifically those two sports more than anything is the way they draft. Horrible
Mm-hmm.
teams get great players coming out of out of college, and the better teams don't. They end up, getting better in free agency, or they'll get lucky
Mm-hmm.
in the draft in that fifth to seventh
Build a guy
round.
up in their system or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
something. Yeah.
But Orlando, who's had low draft picks for X amount of years, eventually you're gonna put the right players together that you've drafted.
Yep.
They're gonna be young, they're gonna play together, and it's gonna turn that franchise around. Orlando is now seeing that solely with Paolo Banchero.
I
Love
mean,
him.
you got Jalen Suggs there too.
Oh, yep. Um,
Greg Anthony's son,
Yep,
Cole
yep.
Anthony.
Cole Anthony from UNC, yep. And
I
even
mean,
the Pacers. The Pacers at 13-8, same thing. A bunch of young guys for so long, and now they're starting to mesh and gel together where they have continuity together.
Wendell Carter, Markel Fultz. I knew it was somebody else that was
Who
there.
he
Uh,
has the best
Fultz,
Fultz has one of the best turnaround other than what Dante Exum is doing right now too.
yes, yes,
But Fultz, because he's been in the league the whole time, Exum is just coming back
yeah.
into the league. But even for Markel Fultz, from what everybody thought he was going to be, being in Philly, to him having the injuries, to him leaving Philly, coming to Orlando figuring out what was wrong, getting
Got the
him right,
yips with his shooting and everything,
got
and
him
just
right, and look at him now.
yeah.
Total career turnaround.
And
Total
bro,
career turnaround.
underrated too. Them damn
The
Wagner
Knicks,
brothers.
the Knicks are 13-9.
Bruh, the Knicks
The
have
Knicks
been
have
one of
been
the most
good
confusing teams because
for like the last 3 years.
this is the thing with the Knicks this year. And I know shout out to the guys over at the Backstage Brawl podcast and Jay Rich who does Turnbuckle Talk on Spaces with Mimi and them and those wrestling girls. Those are Knicks fans that I talk to every so often. And like I tell them, like that team will either come out and beat you 118 to 110, or they'll lose to you 112 to 93.
Yep.
There is no in between with the Knicks this year. They're either really good or they're gonna piss you off and play really bad. Like I just don't see any consistency with them.
Nah, it never has been though. If you really look at the last 3 years, outside of that year where they made, what was it, last season? They made that no, season before last. Where them in Atlanta was going at it like crazy. 2 years ago.
Yeah, and Trey Young was doing the
Yeah,
whole
that season
ice
was
trade celebration. Yeah, that
that
was
season
2 years ago now.
That season and last season for them were the heights of what they've had in a while. And this season too, again, record is great as of right now.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota stands out to me at 17-5. Solely because, again, let's talk about Keyz being right. uh, they figured it out with the big men, where I was told, not gonna name names if he listens to this podcast. Uh, I was told that those two big men, one of them got to go. It don't make sense, And I'm like, see, this is why I don't talk sports with everybody, because everybody just
Bruh, let
has
me tell you something.
cooler talk, and that's it.
Let me tell you something. And this is why I went on that rant. This is why I went on that rant a couple weeks ago. And I want to say just the other day, I think I was telling Dre, don't respond to that account or whatever, because it's a troll account. And every so often I'll see one of y'all, like somebody got, hey bro, don't respond to that. They're not worth your time, because they're trying to get a reaction and an interaction out of you. Don't let them get you.
Even though the Pelicans washed them yesterday.
It's because a lot of these people, they just spit out and regurgitate some stupid shit that they hear on Twitter, Facebook, internet, some radio show, podcast, whatever the hell, right? They don't really be knowing exactly what they're talking about. So it's like, if you know basketball and you really watch basketball, know the game and whatnot, you'll know Karl Anthony Towns has tried to turn himself into the best shooting big man ever. And he literally calls himself the best shooting big man ever.
Yeah.
When you get a guy like a Rudy Gobert, who is no good if he's more than 6 to 8 feet from the basket, and you have another big who calls himself the best shooting big man ever, I think I could probably go out there and coach that team and figure out a way how to use both of those two guys on the floor.
Rudy in the post. Stretch out Karl Anthony
on the perimeter. If I'm running
Mike Conley running point.
Thank you. If I'm running pick and roll or pick and pop, I can do that with Cat. I can't do that with Rudy. So if I'm running something with Rudy, either they're going to already know it's pick and roll because Rudy's not going to pick and pop. However, if Rudy does decide to pick and pop, he's going to become a high post playmaker with the ball in his hands. I don't really trust Rudy in that position, but if it's another action and it's just like Rudy, turn here and throw the ball here, or turn here and throw the ball here, I trust him to make the right pass in that situation. I'm not even going to get too deep in the weeds in it, but anybody that knows basketball knows that there was an easy way for you to use those two guys and take at best advantage of their two skill sets.
Like, what? I do, bro. Let me tell you something. My whole we all play video games. When I'm playing 2K and I'm playing like franchise mode or whatever, and I'm building my, whatever team I got, I refuse to have a power forward under 6'10". I preferably would rather have a 6'11", 7-foot power forward to go with my 7-foot center, because I refuse to have a 6'10" or 6'11" center personally. I'm traditional when it comes to centers. I want my 7'1", 7'2" center, and I would personally rather have a 6'11" to 7-foot power forward to go with that, because I loved what San Antonio did for years, having twin towers that were dominant in that post. That's what got them to win, because they had twin towers. You had two menacing big men. You had a finesse one that could step away in Tim Duncan, and you had the big man in the middle, David Robinson, that was blocking, that was rebounding, that was getting the cleanup. You know what I mean? So
they had a good run.
Same thing that Minnesota has right now. If you want to be honest,
yeah, they had a good run, but the way the game is played today, in order to make that work, you have to have a stretch four. Karl Anthony Towns is clearly a stretch four. Clearly. Like, so when people say stupid stuff like that, that's
they have the guard.
I make note of, and I'm just like, yeah, I can't really talk to you. And then you got to think about it too. The real star on that team is Anthony Edwards. If I'm gonna look at one guy on that team and say this is the guy, it's gonna be Anthony Edwards. If I'm gonna give a guy a final shot or whatever, it's gonna be Anthony Edwards.
For sure. He didn't even play yesterday.
When I look at
that was what they were missing, losing by 20 some points or almost 20 points like that.
When I look at that team and the way they're constructed, He's a slasher, a guy who likes to get to the goal, but he's learning to play on the outside more. And he's improving on his outside shot. It still works because if he drives and drops it off to Rudy, or if he kicks it out the cat, those two big men still work in that situation. Because if he drives and that big man collapses on him, okay, now I'm gonna dump it off to Rudy. Even if I do take the shot and your big man collapses and pulls over later, now I'm getting fouled. I'm going to the foul line, and your big man's in foul trouble now.
And again, you still have the vet Mike Conley. You got Nikhil Alexander Walker.
Yeah,
You got Brown. You got Anderson, Milton, Reed.
that team is
And
at the top of
they
the
have
Western
some
Conference right now.
they have some young dogs on that team, and I like them. I like it going forward. I like it for the future. The money is always going to end up being a problem because you still have Carl Anthony Towns, Rudy, and Kyle Anderson's going to end up coming up for a big contract soon. Um,
But
so
here's the thing: just looking at the way the league is right now, the playoffs started now. Western Conference play-in teams will be Rockets, Clippers, Suns, and Pelicans. In the East, play-in teams right now will be the Heat, the Nets, the Cavs, and the Hawks. I don't see the bottom of those conferences changing too much. I think the teams at the top, with the Celtics, surprisingly the Magic, the Bucks, Sixers.
I think most of them are pretty much
in the Pacers and the Knicks. Then you got the top six in the West. You got the T-Wolves. Small surprise in the Thunder. Again, another team who's had a ton of draft picks, drafted well. Now they're all growing.
And they still have a lot of draft picks.
Exactly.
That's the scary part about them.
The Mavs, they're expected to be there. The Nuggets, the Kings have proven themselves, and then the Lakers. So you got a mix in both conferences, from 1 through 10 of teams that I expected to see this team here. And then there's also I expected to see this team, but not where they're at.
So the Bulls have been nothing in like the major media, but still lots of talk that they're pretty much about to blow the team up.
Yep.
In a sense, Zach LaVine is pretty much the one name. Caruso, I think that was mostly just with the Laker talk. As far
there
as
was
Caruso.
even some I thought I heard some
little
chat,
bit,
about DeRozan, yeah.
but I don't think I think DeRozan is the one person they don't, unless there is a really good trade. Because again, and when I say really good trade, it's more draft picks and assets. But for them to trade DeRozan also, I think for the most part DeRozan stays. But I think Zach LaVine's on his way out. We don't know how that Lonzo Ball contract and what's going to happen with him in the long run. I pray that he's not done. That young man has so much talent.
Oh boy. So wait a minute. A little bit of breaking news. Pro Football Talk is now reporting Patriots owner Robert Kraft reportedly decided to move on from coach Bill Belichick after Week 10 loss to the Colts in Germany. Could a late season hot streak spark a reversal? So I'm going to go with it and say, yes, it is something that is supposedly definitely going to happen if and I'm just saying this because I know sometimes guys over at Pro Football Talk will get shit wrong, and I know people will blow up and say, they don't always, like Florio's this and that. He may not be someone that some of you like in the way he presents his content or what have you. However, if Pro Football Talk is saying it, I'm more apt to believe it than the Score and all these other little smaller blogs and websites and whatnot. Not to say that those guys are going to get it wrong. It's just that if I'm going to see a report by somebody who's going to put their name on it, somebody high profile, I'd rather wait for that and know for sure than to just run with something that somebody's saying that they may have gotten from a second, third, fourth, fifth hand source. But
But
anyway,
I think they should have been moved on from him, though. I'm gonna be honest. I feel like once Brady was gone, Bill should have, at least for his legacy and respect to who he was, I know Bill didn't want to. Bill wanted to, prove to everybody that he could win without Brady, and I've loved.
Of
I
course.
respect it. I fully respect it. But I think it was one of those things where he should have. And if this is it with the Patriots, I feel like if it's not a front office job, go and enjoy your retirement, man. You've had an amazing career.
That ain't
Best
Hoodie though. I think Hoodie still wants to be
best coach
around the
ever.
game and coach the
And,
game. And
but that's why I
I,
said
honestly,
I can see him being a. I can see him moving into not the GM position for the Patriots, but the president, kind of like what
I could
Arians did with the Bucks.
I could see him moving across the country to LA because there's a team in LA that could use a head coach next year.
There's a team in Vegas that I mean, I ain't gonna say that because I think they like who they have. Hold on, who's
I'm
that LA
just
team?
saying,
Chargers?
Chargers. They
I don't
got
like it.
Justin Herbert.
I don't like it.
They got Bosa.
I mean, I kind of like it.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Does he take the
They
staff with
got
him?
Derwin James.
He got an offensive coordinator that's out there. He ain't got no job right now.
I'm just saying. Get the band back together on the West Coast.
I could see that.
I, I I'm just I'm just
I can
throwing it
see
out
it.
there. Just
I can
throwing it
see
out there.
I personally think he's done, but I can see that too. I can see that too.
One other thing that we wanted to hit on before we close out the show, a couple of small things. Well, not small things to y'all, but we love this kind of stuff. Jaden Daniels won the Heisman for LSU.
Yeah.
Do you have a problem with him winning the Heisman?
Nah, he was a clear Heisman winner, man. I think everybody that was in that top 5, 3 was great all season.
Mm-hmm.
Jaden Daniels, I'm learning more about him. I wasn't very familiar with him. I sent it to you earlier, but I watched his Pivot podcast
Yeah,
interview today.
I gotta watch it. I
It
gotta
was
watch.
good.
I did
I
not get a chance to
love
watch that today.
I love what he talked about. I learned more about why he left Arizona,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Arizona State. Um, I learned a lot more about everything that went on going into that. With his grandparents passing very close to each other. I believe it was like either weeks or months apart.
Mm-hmm.
And then him having a lot of mental health issues and stuff, and just feeling like he needed to start over. Um, the young man's had a great story. I can't wait to see what he does in the next where he goes in the draft and what he does on the next level. Him even saying he could have came out last year, and him understanding that the quarterbacks that went 1 and 2, he felt like he's a high draft pick, and him staying another year and doing what he did with LSU and how it's elevated him into that 1-2 uh draft pick. So
Yeah, because the thing is, like, the year he had last year was pretty impressive. And I think that's when he really started saying, people started seeing, like, okay, that long, lanky kid from Arizona State, he actually probably could play at the next level. Like, that's when people started taking him serious as a prospect at the next level. And I think this year he just blew everything out of the water because
mhm.
I remember Coach Brian Kelly was saying that they actually had to change the rules about players coming to the facility because of Jaden Daniels, that he would be there so much that it was just one of those things that I was blown away by how much the kid liked to study and he wanted to improve. And then not only did you hear about all that, but then you saw all that hard work pay off for him. It's just sad that LSU couldn't find some sort of semblance of a defense to do anything more. Speaking of college football, real quick, to touch on one other small thing before we transition into a couple of other little small topics we have before we wrap it up. The transfer portal is on and popping. The
1,200
transfer,
players.
bruh, I want to say the last exact number I saw was like 1184 or so. It was like 1180 something.
I love that question, Dre. After you finish, I kind of like that. That's a good question.
Man, I'm not dressing that shit no more.
I
I'm
like
getting so fucking sick of Florida State. That's my
I
rant. Honestly, I'm saving it for my rant.
I like that question
I have
though.
words for the
I'm
state
not
of
saying he should
Florida.
have been. I ain't saying he should have
I
won the
have
Heisman,
words
but
for the state of Florida.
I don't.
But anyway,
Go ahead. I agree with him.
transfer portal is on and popping. 1,200 players in there, and I saw somebody was kind of shocked earlier where
It's becoming the NFL free agency. It's crazy.
yeah, it wasn't a recruit. I think it was a brand new recruit. Was picking between Georgia and Nebraska, and the predictor said that he's like a 48 or so % chance to go to Nebraska, while he's only like a 30 something % chance to go to Georgia. And somebody was just like dumbfounded. Why would he pick Nebraska? It's the money, bro. It's the money. Because Matt Rule even came out himself and said to get a quarterback right now in the NIL transfer portal and all this, it'll cost you about $1.5 million.
Crazy.
Them people in the Midwest and Nebraska, that's all they have. They don't have nothing else anywhere around them to call their own. The biggest sports thing outside of the University of Nebraska football team is the fact that they hold the College World Series in Omaha every year.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Outside of that, what do they have to call their own? It's just Nebraska football, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think that whole state and all that alumni association and all those former football players and whatnot are going to do? They're going to rally around that team and come up with the money to pay those players to make that Cornhusker football team look good again.
As NIL, like now we're in are we in year 2 of this? Yeah, year 2.
I think
last year was kind of like first real year. I
think it could be the second or third year. It's still really, really new.
Very young, very young. But at this point, as we're seeing, and as much as we have said, like these players should have been paid before, in some capacity, right? Going forward, looking forward into the future, is this hurting college football?
No.
Or is it making it better? Where a team like a Nebraska now has a chance at a number 1 recruit, where before, like you just said, it was between Georgia and Nebraska. That percentage number would be higher that he's going to Georgia.
Yeah.
Or Nebraska probably wouldn't even be one of the teams that he's looking at.
Right.
In the past. So
what you're seeing is
more parity.
There are chances where the rich will get richer, but then there's also Draymond just got ejected for a flagrant 2 foul, and he definitely deserved it.
I almost spit my soda out. That's too normal. It's too normal.
Well, bro, the thing is, like, I saw I didn't see the actual play because I kind of caught the replay. Nurkic had him or grabbing him or something, and then he's like messing with Draymond, grabbing Draymond's side, right? And Draymond is trying to fend him off with the right hand, and he just spun around and gave him like a pimp slap as he turned around, but he tried to make it look like he's just waving his arms up in the air. But bro, you clearly your hand was by your side. You raised it and spun around and then hit him in the face. But anyway,
Draymond.
I think NIL has done some harm to some programs around the country, and I think it'll continue to do so.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's still going to be the here and now where there's still going to be players who are going to want to go and play for certain teams because they have the facilities or they have the coaches or the opportunities that player can take and turn that into an NFL career, which is going to be a lot more lucrative long term than a NIL deal in college. The one NIL thing I will still hit on right now is that there was some reports out there that Ohio State has come up with a $20 million payment to entice Marvin Harrison Jr. to come back to school.
I think he was coming back even without the NIL money. I'm gonna be honest. But because once I seen the reports of what he said of why he wanted to come back, I mean the NIL is always gonna play a part, but because he potentially can make so much money in the NFL as a high three. He's a 1 through 3 draft pick in my opinion, 5 at the most. But
Exactly.
beating Michigan is the biggest. After how they lost to Michigan, having a great season, and the way they lost, that Michigan reason alone is
It
why
it
he
it
comes
could
back.
it could drive you, yes, but
That's
also,
why Travion. That's exactly why Travion is not going to the league. Where Travion also is a
mhm,
first round running back, in my opinion. He's not a second or a third. I think he is a clear first round running back, and he's coming back basically for that exact same reason, is to beat Michigan. That
right.
rivalry. Once you get to, and it's I guess I don't I never played in a. I mean, I played in some high school rivalries that like that, but nothing to the point where it's like I got the NFL in one hand, and I could clearly go and be a top draft pick, and I
Mhm.
got college in the other hand. But boy, I can't leave school saying that I never beat Michigan.
My only thing before
I never beat Alabama.
my
You know
only
what I
thing
mean?
before I round it out is coming back is one thing, especially with some of the crazy NIL money that can rival that first year of your rookie contract.
Hmm.
However, you're 1 year older, you have one more year of wear and tear on your body,
And
and
you're
you're one
potentially
more year
cursed.
removed from potentially getting to that second contract, which is your biggest paying contract typically of your career if you're an NFL player. You're adding one more year to that timeline. Unless they tell me, hey, part of your NIL package is we're going to get you a $50 million Lloyds of London policy just in case you get hurt or anything, potentially loses your income. Because if you evaluate it right now and they say you're a top guaranteed top 5 pick,
Yeah, Marvin Harrison's easily five,
if you come
three,
out there
three in
and
my
you're
opinion. But
drafted anything lower than that, that's loss of income. And
yep,
that could be attributed to why you came back to school. And now, hey, I just lost money for coming back. I need this
because
policy to kick in.
if you want to be honest, as great as Marvin Harrison is, we don't know who's going to be the quarterback for him to get these numbers next season. Right
Exactly.
now, you're a 3 to 5 with McCord, and McCord won't all that, and you still are a 3 to 5 right now.
Right. And the thing is,
Huh.
you're not guaranteed to get, you know, um,
You could
the
stay at three
Washington
to
State
five.
quarterback, Cam Holloway or whatever his name is. You're
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
guaranteed to get that kid to come and play with you or anything like that. And McCord was, ready to leave because
Because
he's gonna have to fight for his job next year.
Michael Penix
So
isn't a is he a senior?
yeah, he's a senior. He ain't got no more
Okay, so
eligibility left. Bo Nix is senior. He ain't got no more eligibility left. Matter of fact, Dylan Gabriel, who left Central Florida to go to Oklahoma, is now going to Oregon to for his
mhm.
last year of eligibility to fill in for Bo
Bo
Nix
Nix.
now.
Okay.
So musical chairs at starting quarterback has already started in college football and everything
It's
else.
gonna
So it's
be
going to be interesting to see
interesting.
what these guys end up deciding.
Very.
One other thing before we get to our rants that did want to touch on real quick was the Devin Haney Regis Prograf fight. Devin Haney pretty much dominated the fight from beginning to end. It wasn't
Boring.
close. Um,
It was boring.
Now the question is posed since he's taken on one of the guys that a lot of people tried to avoid at 140. Who does he fight next in that weight class?
That's an interesting question.
There was I can't find the article that we had talked about earlier, but there was 4 different fighters. One of them was Tank Davis, I believe. One of them was Shakur Stevenson, and I can't remember the other 2 guys. There were 2 more up and coming fighters.
So
I've heard of one, but I didn't hear the other one.
and I'm we're definitely gonna get deeper into this potentially next week. A few things I have to make sure everything lines up, but I think next week maybe that boxing episode, just because there's some big fights, not this weekend but next weekend,
Yeah, and then we
with
got
the
remember that
heavyweights.
heavyweight card. I believe is that
23rd, it's next week.
is the Friday or Saturday or whatever.
Yeah, not this weekend coming up, but it's
Saturday,
Christmas weekend.
Saturday. Yeah, Christmas weekend,
Yeah.
Saturday.
So,
Because the
but
Yeah.
with Shakur, and I definitely want to get my homeboy Kenny in here for that conversation because I wanted this same question you just asked. I want
Hmm.
him and your homeboy. We can get him on to answer that same question.
Yeah. We may.
I
I think
think
we need to put together that boxing episode just to have just a
I
straight
can.
boxing episode and record it and then put it out.
Yeah, we can get that done like at any point
Because I
this
think
week or next
that
week.
may work out for everybody's schedules and stuff to get them both of them in there because it's like that's a nuanced conversation with a lot of moving parts and stuff because of the
Because
way boxing
honestly,
works.
I don't think Haney showed. I rewatched the fight today
Hmm.
actually because I didn't watch it originally when it was on.
Hmm.
Haney won. He won clear.
Hmm.
Um, but as much as he was talking about Shakur's performance, I
Hmm.
also don't think he did anything to wow and it be something to talk about. I think him and Shakur still got to get in that ring. I think
That's the
you talk
sentiment I
down
get
on
from a lot of
Shakur.
people who watch the fight. Like he
Yeah, you talk
won,
down on Shakur and you won. Yeah, Shakur won.
but
You
but
don't
did
like the
he
way he won, but he
impress?
won. No, but I
And
think you
that's
put
the
them two in the
thing.
ring together. Now, this is something that they both, in a sense, have wanted. This is a rivalry. This is a fight where they both have been talking shit. Let them two young men get in the ring and do what they do best. And I think Shakur wins. I honestly
Right.
think, and I think Devin Haney knows it. I think he knows it. I know Kenny is gonna listen back to this because I know he has something to do tonight, so he's not listening. But he always
Hmm.
goes back and listens. He gonna get on my ass, but I don't. He likes Haney. Devin Haney don't do enough to me, man. Like he talks it, but I just didn't see enough in that fight. Um,
Yeah,
I
I
do want
think
to see him in
personally,
Tank though. I
I
think he
think
gotta. There's a lot of fights in that weight class. What
hmm
is that 135 to 145 range? I think
hmm
it is.
in those couple of weight
Um,
classes, yeah.
him and Teo. I want to see him in Pitbull.
There's gonna
I
be
think
some
Pitbull can get with Haney like
there's gonna be
real
some
nice.
entertainment fights. The one, but I do want to see Haney in there with somebody with Gervonta Tank Davis's punching power
And that's
because
what I
there's
said
a
with
lot of
Pitbull.
times
Teo Cruz has that
where
same punching power.
right there's a lot of times where a guy like Haney stands in there and will counter punch with a guy because he's not really getting tagged.
Hmm.
But my thing is, and I'll leave it at this before we get to our rants. Can Haney stand in there and still counterpunch with a guy with that kind of knockout power? And I don't think he can because we
I don't
haven't
think he
seen him
can
do
either.
it yet. And
Because
I don't, I if I have not seen you prove that to me yet, I feel like you can't do it until you prove it to me.
because Tank got that power. Shakur, even though he didn't show it in the last fight, Shakur has that power. Teo Cruz has
Mhm.
that power. Garcia has that power.
Yep.
Garcia just showed that. Not Ryan Garcia. Was it Ryan Garcia this
No,
weekend?
Ryan Garcia. The thing is, Garcia, Stevenson, and Cruz, they have just natural punching power.
Hmm.
Shakur does not have that natural punching power, but his power comes from his accuracy.
Yeah.
And he's so pinpoint accurate. And just when you think like maybe his footwork or his body positioning is a little off, he'll hit you with a punch that you didn't
And
even see
him,
coming, and it'd be pinpoint.
I'm gonna tell you what makes Shakur even more dangerous, and it helped Tank is working with Floyd. Tank benefited
Definitely.
from it. Shakur, even though that last fight was boring and it was a more defensive fight,
Hmm.
it was a Floyd fight. And you can tell he had been working with Floyd in camp. Tank Davis, a lot of Tank's fights haven't been he's caught him with, a good punch, but a good defensive fight that you can tell he had been working with Floyd. So
My favorite Tank fight that shows his typical fighting, his toughness and everything, and also that he's been working with Floyd Mayweather lately. I can't. It was like a couple of fights ago. He was fighting a tough Mexican fighter,
was it the Ryan
and
Garcia?
no, it wasn't the Garcia. It was the fight before that. I can't remember the guy's name. He knocked him out with a
Uh
nasty uppercut.
hold on.
I
I
can't remember his name for the
can
life
tell
of me. But
you
when you look at that fight, he was getting tagged. He was
Hector
getting beat up.
Garcia.
Hector
because
Garcia, right?
it wasn't the Rolly one. The Rolly one, he fuck Rolly up.
But no, in that fight,
the Pitbull one
he
too.
had him against the ropes, but it was almost like Tank was the one that was backing up and clamming up and everything, and then he dodged the punch. He like slipped the punch and just came up smooth with that uppercut, dropped it.
Yeah.
And that simple little slip of that punch and then following up with that quick uppercut, that's a Floyd Mayweather move, to slip a punch and then come with a hook or an uppercut.
Exactly. It's like a little and then
bam. Exactly. And they're taught that in almost all in one motion. It's a slip, boom, and you just coming up with it. So it's like just little stuff like that I see in his game lets me know he's working with Floyd, and you see him picking up on stuff, because if you watch earlier fights and then you watch fights afterwards, when a fighter is training with a different training partner or a different coach or what have you, you can see them pick up on stuff. My example in history, and I'll stop right here, is Mike Tyson post Cus D'Amato and Tony Atlas. You didn't see as much head movement and defense from Mike. You just saw a lot of punches being thrown.
A lot of power.
And that's when he started getting beat up, was because he wasn't dodging punches anymore. And that's how come Buster Douglas, besides all the other stuff around him, ended up beating him.
No,
but it's time to get to the rants. And I need to unload mine first, because I just need to get this off my chest, because Dre asked us that stupid ass question that we already addressed last week, and I hate addressing shit more than once.
Before that, also, I watched something today. Shout out to Alyssa Pilley from Utah. Ooh, I watched those highlights. Nice looking. Nice.
So basically, my rant this week is about and this fool cut me off to say something about a goddamn women's basketball player when I'm trying to get my rant off about fucking Florida State. The state of Florida has launched an investigation into the college football playoff for some stupid fucking reason. I have no idea why. But you're wasting your taxpayers' money doing this dumb shit, because they not about to change nothing. They not about to emergency injunct and put them in. They not going to award them a national title. They're not even going to award them a share of the national title. If y'all hang one of them stupid ass fucking banners at your school, I will forever laugh at you. They decided by their metrics, you didn't deserve to get in. It's tough. That's life. Shit ain't gonna always go the way you want it to go. Things ain't gonna always be easy. Get over it. You're gonna get screwed sometimes. You're gonna get the short end of the stick sometimes. It happens to everybody. It may happen to some more than others. Your situation may be more fucked up than somebody else's, but it happens to everybody. Get over it. There was one of the criteria that said, in plain English, if somebody ain't available, it could affect your position. It happened to you. Get over it. And for the people in Dre's question who are saying that Jordan Travis should have gotten a vote for the Heisman or should have been the Heisman and all of that just because this team got left out, shut the fuck up. You sound stupid, because he was not the best player in college football this year. He just happened to be the most important player for a team that was up for the college football playoff. That does not mean he was the best overall player in college football. Let's not be stupid, people. But a lot of the times y'all think, well, if A equals B, then A and B must equal C. No, that's not how shit works. Find a better string of logic to put together than to say, well, if you're going to leave him out, he should win the Heisman. No, that's not how it works. Your starting quarterback got hurt. Your backup was out. Behind your third string, your team looked like shit. Behind your backup, your team looked meh at best. And you really wanted them to put y'all in just so y'all can get y'all heads beat in.
Yes.
No. It's about money. And like Sloan had kept saying, you got to follow the dollar. Who's going to bring in more ticket sales, more merch sales? Who's going to have more fans out there? Who's going to provide us a more exciting game? Texas and Alabama. Because they weren't taking out Michigan or Washington. Their quarterbacks are fine. Harbaugh came back from his suspension. They're 100% put together.
Damn the quarterback side of it. No, it's your rant. I'm sorry. Go ahead. My bad.
But it's like, I don't understand how these people can think that this guy should get the Heisman, or why the state of Florida thinks we're going to sue. This is grandstanding.
He never should have got the Heisman. No.
It's doing your taxpayers a disservice to waste their money on a moot point that's not going to change anything.
Because it's already being changed next year with the college playoff system being expanded
to 12.
It'd be different if it was going to be the same next year, or they don't have this potential, this 12-team playoff going forward. Then I get it. But because this is the last year of it, it doesn't change anything. It's not going to be changed in time for.
My thing is, it wasn't going to change nothing, no way, because they're not going to go back and have some court ruling that's going to be ruled before these games get played to say that Florida State can get in now. You can't force this entity to put your team in. You can't.
If it wasn't for the 12 team coming up next year, I would totally be with them as far as like make your argument and push forward. So that way it can change going forward. But because it's already being changed going forward, it's like you really just got to sit in the corner and cry about it. And I hate to say it because I do think Florida State was robbed. I don't really. We all know the third string won't go play. The second string, Rodemaker, was going to be fine in time for the college playoff games to come. I do think they should have been in Alabama. That Alabama Texas is. We talked about it was very hard because Texas beat them early in the season, but Alabama turned it the fuck on at the end of the season, and they beat the number one team. Texas had a great season also. And that was more the argument, was which one of them two should have gotten in. Florida State should have been 3, and that 4 really should have been between Texas and Alabama, and that should have been the argument. Alabama probably would have got in solely because of like what you and Sloan said. It's about money. It's solely about money, and it's the SEC.
This right here will be the last time I address that shit. And I swear on everything I love, Dre, if you ask me another fucking question like that, I'm going to call you and curse you out personally. Don't ask me no stupid ass shit like that no more.
That nigga 7'4" and bald. You want those problems, brother? Nigga 7'4" and bald. That's crazy.
5'10", 180.
Don't laugh in the comments. Don't laugh in the comments.
My rant is over. I bequeath my time.
I'm gonna make mine short and sweet. Hey Philly, come to the forefront. I love my franchise.
Oh boy,
I do. I love us. We have squeak. Well, I'm gonna tell you this short story really quick. Went to Little Caesars, got the kids some pizza tonight. And a Philly fan was in there. He had his hat on. I said, man, we've had a rough 2 weeks. And the way he broke it down to me, I love it.
I feel like that stance, KG.
I feel like is what we all should have had mentally, or what we all should have mentally when it comes to our team, especially in football, because football is a week-to-week game. And I hear a lot of football players say it. Jalen Hurts has said it all season. Once you win a game, you get excited about it. You're happy you won. You know, if you squeaked it out, cool. If you weren't supposed to win and you won, great. You're 1-0. But after Monday, once Tuesday comes, if you played on Sunday, if you play on Monday, once Wednesday comes, whatever, Tuesday, Wednesday, either way, once that new football week starts, you are now 0-0. And it's a whole new week, whole new season.
Yep.
But a lot of what he said made sense, and it had me thinking going into my rant, because I had already told you my rant was going to be about Philly. It still is. But it softened it just a little bit because, like you said, regardless of the D-backs being weak, that's the weakest part of the entire team. Outside of our OC and DC, that is where my issue is. Rookie coordinators, of course, but I hate the way Brian Johnson has been calling all season. You can tell that Jalen has not been comfortable in that offense the entire season. You have DeAndre Swift that when you give him the ball has produced when you give him the ball. When you start giving Gainwell too many carries, when you're giving Boston Scott too many carries, I love them as running backs,
Mm-hmm.
but Swift is the number one back. Jalen shouldn't have to run as much because, and I love when Jalen runs. Jalen does exactly what he's supposed to do. KG, I'm not listening to nothing you talking about, brother. All right? It's the D-backs. It's not the linebackers. I don't even want to know who your team is because I feel like I know where this is about to go.
You already know where it's about to go.
I know where it's about to go, and I don't want to have that discussion with him either. So, congrats. But the offense hasn't been comfortable all year. And even in this last game with Dallas, more the Dallas game than the 49er game, you could totally tell it was so predictable. The offense was super predictable. You knew what was going to happen. The Cowboys had it like lined out. They knew exactly what to do, how to combat it. On the defensive side of things, it's the D-backs. Our D-backs have been trash for years. Darius Slay is the best part of that defense backfield. But it's the D-backs. The D-backs can't tackle. It's a lot of rookies, a lot of injuries also. No excuses. We talked about it earlier. Marquez Valdez-Scantling not catching that pass. That's on the Chiefs, not on us. We were still in the game. We capitalized and won. Same thing with the Buffalo game. Same thing all season, to be honest with you. With all the other wins. So I don't know. We got 4 games left. Seahawks win doesn't scare me anymore because of who the quarterback is. I'm not scared of Drew Lock. The Giants one don't really scare me too much. I feel like Kyler is gonna do some crazy shit and they're gonna beat us. And it's gonna piss me off because we lost to the Cardinals too. Also, the Cowboys lost to the Cardinals too. Who's the quarterback? Wasn't it Josh Dobbs? That's crazy. Y'all lost to Josh Dobbs. But you went 1-1 with us. And you lost to the 49ers too. That's crazy. But you went 1-1 with us. We ain't gonna talk about it. That's my other rant. That's my rant. It's coming soon. I hate Cowboy fans so much. It's not the franchise, it's not the team, it's the fans.
Love this time of year. And KG will laugh at this. Like, we got a homeboy, Ron. He been living in Texas for 30 years, and he still sound like he just got off the plane from New York.
Oh, for real? I have a couple friends like that. I have a friend like that. Like, that New York don't leave you. I have a friend who was born in New York, lived there, and maybe the first 4 years of his life, and he's been in Virginia ever since.
Yeah.
And I ran into him a couple weeks back at the store. Bro sounds like he just left New York yesterday.
Bro,
still.
Look,
and I'm like, how when you've been here so long?
When I tell you after last night's game, when DeVito won that game for him.
Yes, me up Philly without 2 L's.
This fool, you have to say son like Ron. Look, I sent that fool that scene from Goodfellas with Joe Pesci in the diner. He said, I don't shine shoes no more. I said, that's DeVito now. DeVito said, I don't shine shoes no more. I'm a quarterback.
I'm gonna be honest. He about to see something crazy next week. Not this week, but next. And then he still got to see us twice at the end of that. D-line is gonna be scary for him.
Hey,
that D-line.
I'm gonna put it to you like this.
They don't have the receivers that
it's only
Cowboys
scary.
And 49ers had.
It's only scary for someone who's scared. That kid is playing with house money. He ain't scared of shit.
He shouldn't be scared.
He ain't scared of shit.
At the end of the day, he's the starter for the rest of the season, for real, for real.
That's what I'm saying.
Even if they bench him, he still got to showcase his talent.
But it's just like Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy came in and was like, I'm playing with house money, nigga. I'm Mr. Irrelevant. Nobody thought I would even be here right now. I'm not even supposed to be here. And I'm starting. What? I'm going to play carefree.
DeVito's definitely playing. I like the way he's been playing. I watched that game last night. Like he's not playing bad. He's not
No,
playing bad
bro,
at all.
he's playing really good. The kid can ball, and I'm really enjoying like the way the league is going, where a lot of these inexperienced and or rookie quarterbacks can come in and
Second, third string quarterbacks right
they
now
can come
are
in and kind of seamlessly transition into keeping that offense going as long as they play within themselves and within the offense.
because look at like again the Steelers right now. Like we said, like they're on
You
what
down to
third
your
string
third
now?
string quarterback,
Mason Rudolph now, and
and
the
you're still
offense
getting it done.
and Mason was the guy until they drafted Pickett, and I like Pickett, but
Exactly.
Pickett got hurt.
And the
Trubisky
only
definitely
reason,
not the
the,
answer, but
the only reason, and I heard this from a lifelong almost Steelers fan. I kind of figured this when it happened, but I just was. She even said it. A real good friend of mine, Desiree Hoffman. Shout out to Des. Her and that damn that fucking laugh. It's crazy. I'm gonna send y'all that tweet one day. The next time they post that video, why we always laugh at her laugh. But she even said the main reason why they drafted Pickett is because they didn't want to have another situation like they had years ago with Marino, where you didn't take the local guy, you pass on him, and then he goes on to have a Hall of Fame career.
I like
They
Pickett though.
they
I do. I
needed a
like Pickett.
quarterback.
Yeah,
He was the local kid. He was there. He was available.
he
They
did. He
didn't want to have a
from
repeat of
Pittsburgh,
it, so they
went to
took him.
Pitt. He
Exactly.
checked the whole box. From
He
Pittsburgh, went to
checked,
Pitt. Now he's a Pittsburgh Steeler.
and
Hometown money.
he still got tiny hands. It don't matter all of that shit. He still got tiny hands, turns the ball over way too much, and it's not
He
as
does.
accurate, and
He
gets
does.
choppy feet in the pocket and stuff.
He
He's
does.
not
But I
their
love
guy.
their running back room is nice too. Najee Harris, and then the other guy that came in for Najee when he got hurt.
Well, that's the other thing that they've been talking about is like we spent this first round draft pick on Najee Harris, and this other guy, he's our
Is
bet. He's the better back.
Ooh. But
It's
Najee also
just
got
like
hurt.
it's just, and
Najee got
KG
hurt
will
this
attest
year.
to this too. It's just like when the Cowboys was like, well,
Oh,
Zeke is the
Zeke,
guy that we paid, but look at
Tony
Pollard.
Pollard. But look at this season. If you honestly look at this season, Pollard being the number one back now, in KG, if you still here, you can. I don't think Pollard has panned out very well as that number one back. I think he benefited from having Zeke, and they don't have a strong number two to complement him.
Mm-hmm.
And Zeke being there, it helped both of them, but Zeke just was making too much money for them to keep him there. And that's what the problem was. But I
Oh,
think they have to go out and get another
we're gonna put a pin right there because that's gonna be our college one of our topics next week.
Oh, okay.
Is
Yeah. I like that.
we gonna get
Thank you,
into some
KG.
draft talk, and because
I like
I
that.
can't really like when he be
Pollard is
watching
the
film,
centerpiece
I
and
don't
her
always
players
get a
get
chance to
attacked
go up
from
there and
behind.
watch it with him.
Exactly.
And but a good buddy of mine, he's the one that does all the draft profiles for NFL.com and NFL Network, Lance Zerline.
Okay.
And like literally, like if I go in his office, I can't take pictures of shit because it's all proprietary to the NFL or certain teams and stuff like that. And like I can't talk about it's like it's crazy. But talking to him and over the years and stuff, it started making me like look at draft prospects differently. But that's some of the stuff we're gonna get into to touch on college football between now, the combine, the draft, and all of that is looking at these guys as pro prospects going to the next level. And
Yep.
we're gonna probably get into that starting next week is just rank those guys. And then after their bowl games, time to take a look at if they play. The guys who do play in their bowl games and say, okay, out of all of these pro prospects, who showed up the best in their bowl games? So,
Oh, and you had started to touch on something before, and this is the last thing, and then we're done for the night. The Mikey Williams situation.
yeah, that was the other thing. We were glad that he basically got a second chance at
Yeah,
resuming his
yeah.
basketball career.
Very,
And
very, very good talent. That boy
man,
has a gift, and I'm so glad the Lord. And I rarely get, but I'm glad Lord was able to give him another chance
Right.
at life and at basketball.
Right.
Life for the most part, because that young man
Right.
going to jail wasn't what he needed, or having that type of having that on his record. It's
Right.
always going to be on his jacket, but to have it on his record at least, I don't think
Right.
I'm so glad he's not going to
The
have.
thing is you can come back from being 18, 17, 18, 19, making a very stupid decision that end up not harming anybody, as opposed to being that same age making one of those stupid decisions and it costs somebody their life or
And you
yours.
can't change that. And now
Right.
you're
You can't
jail
change
for
that. You can't take that
20
back. You
years,
can't
and
really come back from that. I
now they're
mean,
doing the
you
ESPN's doing a 30 for 30 on him, talking about what could have been of Mikey Williams if he didn't go to
right.
jail.
You're the next, woulda, coulda, shoulda special that everybody's gonna look at and be like, damn, he was gonna be one of those ones. But
And he's at Memphis, right? Is he able to play, or is he gonna have to
you
redshirt this year?
know,
Because I don't think when I seen everything about Bronny, I don't think I seen anything about him being able um
I don't
being
know
able to
about
play.
his playing ability. I'm gonna have to let me see what this article says.
Because
But
he's on the roster as I'm looking
yeah,
at it.
he's definitely on the roster. I just don't know what his eligibility is, and I think we're gonna have to wait for the NCAA to determine what that's gonna be and how that's gonna look.
Because I believe they were also waiting to, like, the charges was one thing, and he didn't get kicked out of school or anything. He just couldn't come on campus. So a lot of the stuff he was everything was online school for him during the trial. So now that everything's over, I believe he is back on campus.
They
But
said as this was from November 30th, as of earlier this month, he was enrolled in online classes and remained on the roster, but did not have access to team facilities or activities. And this was
yeah,
from an
and
article written on November 30th.
yeah, it's still saying he has yet to participate in any team practices due to legal issues stemming
Yeah.
from the gun charges. Um,
So basically, what's
he'll probably
probably
redshirt this year, and
I would be honestly, I would be surprised
if he
if he
stays
didn't. Yeah, if he stays, I'd be
and just
surprised if he
go G
stays.
League.
He'll
At this point,
probably
I would say just
because
go G League.
another thing that
You're getting the same thing without the school aspect of it, to be
yeah,
honest.
another thing that I'm putting down for next week talked about how I believe it's 15 out of the 30 first round picks in the NBA this year have gone down to the G League at some point. So there's a lot there. There's a lot of things there to break down, but I'm just glad that the kid was able to basically get away from the more serious charges, plead down to some much lesser charges, and will be able to resume his basketball career and be a free man as long as he keeps his nose on the straight and narrow. But I mean, just like you said, just thank God and hope and pray that the kid keeps his nose clean and can, use his God given ability because he's such a smooth, effortless player. It's just his
Man,
athleticism is off the charts, and he has to improve on decision making and shot selection. Of course, as a lot of these young players have to, but you can see the framework for a really good, bare minimum, a good solid rotational NBA player for at least 3, 4, 5, maybe 7 years if he stays healthy.
yeah, definitely. So
But with that being said, that's Keyz. I'm Jermaine. This has been Sucio Sportz, episode 11.
11, 11, 11, 11, 11.
The Once. We'll be back next week. I'll let y'all later.